How are you feeling? How are you feeling about your whiskey collection? How are you feeling about the choice that we have there today? How are you feeling about managing real estate? How are you thinking about getting a new cabinet? Thinking about maybe not bothering to do any of those things? Every now and again, we have a check-in, we have a discussion. Almost sometimes it comes across like a confessional where we talk about how much whiskey we've accumulated through our chasing of flavour and through our pursuit of this fascinating hobby. Inevitably, there's a cookie trail of over accumulation. Every now and again, we do a vPub. We kind of talk about it. We kind of thrash it out there. We kind of look at the size of the problem with a very small p, and we consider how we feel about it. We think about how we got here, where we're at, and where we're going in the future. And that's what we're going to do again tonight. It's been about a year and a half since we last did it, and I'm looking forward to it as always. And I'll see you in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. I've got a bit of a creaky seat tonight. I've only just worked out how creaky this wee stool is. I hope it's not putting anyone off. And I'm hoping that the mic maybe doesn't pick it up too much. Nice to welcome you all once more. Welcome to Thursday. Welcome to the vPub. I hope you're all sitting there with a nice dram. I hope you're comfortable and hope you're looking forward to a little couple of hours of kind of just whiskey downtime. I kind of one of these really kind of deep dive type geek out sessions or whatever, but sometimes we find ourselves having a bizarre kind of curiosity about it, not just about the condition that we've got ourselves in, maybe doing a wee bottle count, considering what we want to do, the spending and accumulation for the year ahead, all of those types of things. But we can also compare it to the kind of wider community, how many other people are in the same boat as us, how many other people want to achieve the same things in the year ahead, and how many other people are maybe going to be trying to do something completely different. What it also does, I think, is quite interesting too, is that, the industry, they know what's happening in whiskey. They can see sales, they can see demand, they can see how their stocks are sitting and the supply chain and all of these great things. Retailers have an even better, clearer view, I would suggest, because they see the patterns and they see the mix right across an entire, all the portfolios rather than just one or two portfolios of brands. But what we do when we get together is we kind of almost hold a wee mirror up. We reflect what we are feeling and how we're feeling about the choice that's available, how we're feeling about the finances, whether we want to hold on to our money or whether we're feeling a wee bit curious, frivolous, even that type of thing. And it tends to reflect, and I would even go as far to say, to some degree, predict maybe how the next 6, 12, 18 months is going to be in the whiskey landscape, that type of thing. We're still in a very weird period in whiskey, I believe. I don't think we've fully recovered from the post-pandemic hangover. It's not just happened in whiskey, it's happened in a lot of sectors out there where we had this really exceptional set of circumstances where people were stuck at home. And one of the things that they could do, one of the places they could put their money back then was whiskey, of course. And then there's been this kind of strange kind of correction. It's not been a cliff, though. It's been this kind of gradual petering out where a lot of maybe people that weren't into whiskey the way we are for chasing flavour. If you're hanging out in the vPub, come on, you're after a sip of something delicious. You're probably going to be sipping it alongside something else delicious and comparing it and looking forward to the next release from your favourite distillery and all that type of things, but not for the sake of having a shiny bottle on the shelf or putting something in the loft that you can sell at a higher price somewhere down the line. No judgment if you do that, no problem at all. But I think if you're in the vPub, you're more into getting that thing home, tearing the foil off it, getting it uncorked and into the glass, that type of thing. And I think it's the data that I'm going to share with you tonight reflects all of that. So I think that there is an interesting almost like a toe in the water. We don't have a huge sample size here. We never have, even back when we kicked it off just during COVID or still under kind of semi-lockdown. We maybe got a sample size of about 900 people when we did the little survey. A couple of years ago when we were here with talking about the glass lock, I think it was, we managed to do it. It was a much shorter time. It was just 2 or 3 days. We managed to get about 400 people, or 400 or 500. So the survey's only been out there 2 days this week. Apologies, I only managed to put it out there 2 days ago. People have been filling it in, and we've broken about 300 or so. But as I always say at each presentation, we only need a sample of about 50 to 100. Why? Because it doesn't matter how many 100 we get beyond that. Once the first 50 or 100 people are in, the percentages tend to be locked, and they only drift 1 or 2 or 3% as the figures tumble in. It's really quite interesting to see the sample size. As long as we break triple figures, we're doing okay. I can check the sample size now. This is still going live in the background. This is a poll I put out there to the community. You know I love a poll, don't you? We're at 317 just now. And quite honestly, I'm just going to kind of leave that one open for a little while. The link will be out there and people can continue to fill it in. Obviously, the data I'm going to give you tonight will be based on a snapshot I took just before going live this evening. And I punched in all the numbers and things from that. So it might change by a degree or two, a percent or two here and there. But generally, we're going from a sample size of just over 300 participants for this session tonight. So you get to see how your collection sizes up to all of those, everyone else out in the community. But also at the end of the session this evening, I'll do what I always do in these sessions. I'm going to share my top 5 hoarded distilleries brands. I'm going to share what your top 5 hoarded distilleries are there as a community, all of you. Slightly different from mine. And then I'm also going to close out by admitting just how extreme the accumulation has become at the vPub, and share with everyone how many bottles I have, how many are open, and how many remain sealed. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. The thing that we need to do just now before we jump in and welcome all of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies is raise a wee glass just to say welcome everyone. Cheers. I've got something gorgeous in the glass tonight. It's been open a wee while now, maybe a year or 2 years I think it's been open. And I think still tasting as vibrant and as fresh as ever. But there's only a wee drop left in the bottle now, so I'm going to clear it out. And I'm on a kind of festival theme this week in terms of the drams that I'm pouring. But I'm also going to hold each bottle up and kind of give you a reason for why I felt I had to buy that bottle. Whether it's FOMO, whether it's just something that we just generally, it doesn't always need to be FOMO. Just because you want something isn't always FOMO, right? FOMO is like it's this kind of cover-all term that we've got. It's not always a fear of missing out. It's just seeing something that you can appreciate and say, that would be nice. I think I would like that. And you maybe treat yourself. So I think that's a wee bit different from FOMO. And I kind of feel like that's the case for most of the bottles that I have with me tonight. 2 of them, at least 2 of them, and maybe even 3 of them, is going to be a wee bit of an uncorking as well. So that bottle open count will increase in front of your eyes this evening. Anyway, let's get into the chat. I'll scroll back a wee bit. If you're trying to get hold of my attention, just type Aquavitae or at Aquavitae, and it should highlight for me. If you're watching on Facebook, thank you. I really do appreciate you watching Facebook. But if you see me interacting with the chat, there's currently approaching 300 people. Where is the number? So we've got 260 people in just now, and that chat is in YouTube. That's the chat that I'm interacting with. Superb. How are we all? Prestige Liquids. Good to see you. Is that Andrew? My goodness, I've not seen you in ages. He says, it's been a very long time since I was last able to join a chat. Have a great one. Nice to see you, Andrew. Hope you're keeping well. Whisk Amy away. Saying Aquavitae, I need to tell you and the barflies my news. Fantastic, Amy. Share it away. Share it. Member for 48 months, David Barnes is celebrating being a member. Thank you so much for your support, David. 48 months, that's 4 years, along with Dave Peatyboy, who just joined the Barflies tonight. Thank you so much, Dave, and welcome. Gary Field also joined the Barflies today. Gary, superb. Thank you for your support. I know you support me elsewhere as well, Gary. It's very much appreciated. And Finally Done is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 29 months, saying just had to crack the Blue Spot 7. Lovely. It is a delicious dram. Lovely, oily, thick texture on that wee Blue Spot. That 7-year-old cast strength as well. Single pot still Irish whiskey. So Dave, Gary, David, and Finally Done are all members of the Barflies, and that's through the YouTube membership. So they click that button underneath. If you're on an iOS device, you might not have it, but Android and desktop, you can click and join as a Barfly member. €199, pounds, dollars, whatever it is, and you keep all the content on the channel completely ad-free. And in exchange, on top of that, you get the wee loyalty Barfly badges next to your name. It's highlighted to me, and also you get access to all the whiskey-themed and channel-themed emoji as well. More than anything, I'm grateful for your support. The channel is funded through aquavitae.com. If you want to support the channel, if you want to keep it alive and vibrant and bright, and keep me in this very, very strange but privileged job, head over to aquavitae.com and you can read up on how you can support over there. Good stuff. Let us know what the news is, Amy. Michael Wood is saying, even the Barflies, once again, I cannot hang for long, but here for the start is good. Aquavitae, Roy, you are a star. Michael, you're a star as well. I know that you faithfully pick things up on the replay, and I know that you play the wee game, the challenge the chimpanzee along at the end, to see how you got on at the quiz. You're an earnest student as well, and I love having you around, Michael. It's nice to be able to welcome you in tonight. Pedro in Brazil saying, good evening, Barflies and Aquavitae. Great to be live with you once again. Still trying to find a dram that matches the theme. There is no such thing. It's random tonight. I've gone for kind of festival theme because of in May, we obviously had the Fèis and we had the Campbelltown Malts Festival, so I'm going along those lines tonight, Pedro. I don't know if that helps you in any way. But yeah, anyway, you like. Paul Mackay is in. Good to see you, Paul. He's saying hello, Aquavitae, and all you wonderful Barflies. A wee longer 10 in the glass for me tonight. Fantastic, Paul. I managed to meet Paul a wee bit earlier in the week. He's a golf coach, and I very much need some golf coaching. So that was wonderful to see you there, Paul, as well. It might not be the last time I see you, fella. Jeff Whiskey's saying, good evening, Aquavitae, and you wonderful Barflies. Jeff, good to see you in, fella. I hope you hang around a wee bit tonight, buddy. I hope you're comfortable and not too tired. Working hard, putting out some fantastic content, Jeff. We're loving it. Jeff and I managed to record a wee session, and he's broke it up into a 3 or 4 part series, a kind of one-on-one interview thing. We go on for quite a wee while, but it seems to have gone down quite well, and it's been pretty well edited. Well done, Jeff. DVDWs, good to see you. I've stopped calling it a collection. Got too self-conscious about it. Now it's a whiskey selection. That's exactly what it is. A collection tends to suggest that it's something. I mean, would you have a collection of spices in your kitchen cabinet? No, you wouldn't. You'd have a selection of spices. You don't collect spices. You just have them there. And when you're in the mood or when you need those specific things, you use them. And that's kind of what the whiskey is, especially as soon as it's open. I don't think it's a collection either. I've called it collections. Of course I have. And I refer to it as such. I hope you all know what I mean in the context. But I often use the word selection as well, Dan. Andy Hales is here. Good to see you. Good evening, Roy. Sure, that's your seat and not your floorboards creaking under the weight of all those bottles. You make a joke, but there's truth in that. There's a lot of weight in bottles. And the higher that you stack the whiskey, the more weight that you're putting on the floor. And you will find, depending on your floor, that things can start to get creaky. Adrian Hanna is saying, good to see you, Adrian. He's saying, evening, Roy Aquavitae. I'm on the search for a cabinet, having just received approval for one in the front room for my good lady. Will be an upgrade from my current 4 Kallax spaces. Kallax is really practical. It's good and thick and solid and deep. But if you're going to put something in a room that you're living in, on the IKEA theme, something along the lines of a belly bookcase is good because you get glass doors to put on it. You can put some soft lighting. Underlighting is better for whiskey in my experience. Put some soft lighting in it as well. That keeps the dust away, keeps it looking good. And yes, it's a much more pleasant thing. It can even look a wee bit like a cozy fireplace. Jesper is in saying, evening, Roy. Good to see you, buddy. Saying my collection has become a bit too West Coast heavy and recent Fèis visit didn't help. Future aim is to create a better regional balance. This is nice, Jesper. This is you admitting, I love this thing. I want a bit of balance. I want a bit of variety. I realise that I've gone off on a bit of a tangent and I'm going to correct things. You know and you're aware there's some pragmatism there, and that's going to be a word, balance, pragmatism, acceptance. All of these things are going to come up repeatedly throughout tonight because it's a theme that runs through a lot of the language and comments I'm getting back from you all. Jerry Miller is saying, good evening, Roy. It's the time of year where I empty my bottles to have room for the bottles I bring back from the Glasgow Whisky Festival. So you're busy making space, freeing up some real estate, Jerry. We love it. It's going to be good to see you in Glasgow this year. Malt Metal Mick. Mick, I don't know if I've welcomed you before. If I haven't, it's nice to welcome you here for the first time. Aquavit, evening, Roy, and evening, Barflies, back after a well-deserved holiday and a few weeks of busy work. Hope everyone is well. Sounds like you have been in before. Maybe I'm just I was speaking to a friend actually before I went live tonight, and he said there's a few times now you've welcomed me into the vPub, like it's the first time, and it tickles him greatly, he says. And he's not disclosing what the name is, so I need to try and figure it out tonight. Whiskey Weekend Drama is saying, hi, just unpacked my collection. Got a comment from family on the size, 150 closed and 40 bottles open. Harrow, that sounds like a tidy little collection to me. I don't want to encourage it getting worse, but that doesn't sound, maybe I'm just comparing it to the mess that I'm in. Overland Drams, Chuck is here. Good to see you, buddy. Saying, raise a wee glass of midday coffee to you, my friend. Well, right back at you, Chuck. I'm going to raise this wee glass to celebrate, I suppose, or to remember the Campbelltown Malts Festival of 2024, when I was able to pick up, amongst other wee souvenirs on that trip, as part of the Kilkerran Warehouse tasting. This was probably the dram of the entire week 2 years ago for me. It was a refill bourbon Kilkerran. Clocking in it, what was that, 18 years old? 2006 to 2024, 59.3% ABV, but it sips much softer than that. It's luscious and rich and buttery and toffee caramel and old and elegant and mature and robust and confident all at the same time. It's just a cracking whiskey. But you can see I'm making a little bit of space. This is a 35 cl bottle. This is when they were putting them in the 35 cl tall bottles. I only bought one of these. Absolutely delicious. I'll miss it when it's gone, but I've enjoyed my time with it. And this is the pour. I'm going to have a wee bit more. This is the pour I'm going to use to welcome all of you guys in tonight. Terrific stuff. See who else is here? Hi, Roy. I've been in once before at the end of April. I'll be a regular. Fantastic, Mick. I'll hopefully remember it's not your first time the next time I welcome you in. And Harrow is saying, I just say all Whiskey Barflies lovers have such a collection. That's obviously how you're justifying it, right? I have one shelf with only Kilkerran, around 35 bottles, I think. Bit of a Kilkerran fetish. Fantastic, buddy. Mike Molasses bought me a dram. Aquaviti, let's congratulate Hoyt, aka Trippleberg, on his retirement. Can we finally raise a wee glass to our pal, Hoyt Hemphill? He's been in here under a few different names, but we know him as Trippleberg these days. I'll thank you for the dram, Mike. Thank you for the nudge. And I'll raise a glass of this delicious Kilkerran to our pal, Hoyt. Happy retirement, buddy. Feet up time. Cheers to you. Magic. My pal in Germany is in Lunaren, is saying my floors are already creaking. House from 1900s, but very stable. Whiskey cabinet is from the 1880s, so very stable as well. Fantastic. Reuse and recycle Luna, right? Especially if it's a solid, pretty antique. Lee J is saying, evening, Roy, Aquaviti and Barflies. Early start tomorrow, so just popping in to say hi. I'll have to watch the rest on replay. Stay safe and keep well. Same right back at you, Lee J. And now that you're back here watching it on the replay, it's nice to have you, fella. Let us know what you think of it. Feel free to share my news, says Whiskey. Barry Coleman is saying, just watching tonight is the Whiskey Live in Dublin this weekend, so rest in my very poor taste buds. That's a shame. Whiskey Live resting my very poor taste buds. So you're thinking that they're going to be poor at the weekend, or you're maybe just being a little bit humble and suggesting that you've got poor taste buds anyway. Have a good time at the weekend. Annabelle is in. Good to see Annabelle. She's saying, evening, right back at you. Nice to welcome you in. I guess it's Friday morning for you, Annabelle, isn't it? It looks like a new name. I'm going to do my very best. It's Giochi Preziosi. Aquaviti, good evening around Barflies. Next week, it's the Bilbao Whisky Topaqueta, the biggest whisky festival in Spain. Hope to see you there someday. Cheers. You know, I was thinking about, I go to Spain every year at least once, and I was wondering if they ever have any kind of festival in Spain. I've never heard of, you know, kind of Whisky Live Madrid or anything like that. So there we go. Topaqueta. Never heard of it. I'll need to give that a wee look. So Giochi, I don't know how, it doesn't look like a Spanish name either, but it's nice to have you in, buddy, and thanks for the heads up on the Spanish festival. New Zealand, Dave is in. Good to see you, buddy. He's seen Aquavita recently split the collection into regions and was shocked how much Speyside had shrunk since I started. I think Speyside's coming back to us in certain areas and certain places, but you're right. So much of Speyside is dominated by official bottlings that are watered down, neutered, and are just a bit vanilla. It's a bit of a tricky thing to navigate, but fortunately, we've got some nice things coming out there. There's a couple of new distilleries even, but I think Benromac is probably our kind of torchbearer for Speyside right now. Trippleberg is saying thank you, Aquavita, and everyone else. Fantastic, buddy. All the very best to you, my friend. Heb Time is saying, hello, all made it, Aquavita. Nice to have you in. Heb Time, I think I know who that is. Look at that wee unmistakable icon there, and I think Heb Time. It looks like it might be Gordon Fraser. It's nice to have you in, big guy. Collection-wise, loads of Glen Scotia, says Lunaran, and Loch Lomond, and Kuboken, and loads of Isla stuff. Prestige, like I was saying, I was lucky to accumulate a good selection of whisky over the last few years. Unfortunately, Australian taxes have priced me out of the whisky market for the time being. I hear that it's pretty difficult. Andrew Lowlander is saying, will there be a World Cup themed vPub next week? Come on, Scotland. I think I couldn't. It'd be very, very difficult for me to just not go all in on Scotland on it. We'll keep the vPub about whiskey, but know that in the background, I'm going nuts. And every time I think about it, I'm getting butterflies and nerves and all the rest of it. Amy is saying, did you see my news? I didn't, Amy. I didn't see it. Sorry. I'm trying to keep up with everything. If you drop it in again, I might get a chance to see it a wee bit later. Dave is saying, most excited about the new Isla distilleries, and Greg's Whisky, Greg in Paris is saying, it's true I have less Speyside now than ever before, lots of original official bottlings, which will not be replaced, and more Isla ones. By the way, of course, Campbelltown, of course. And what Amy is saying, no worries, but I still know reading the news. Anyway, let's go on with things. I have a whisky collection. I have a whisky selection. I have been building that collection now for 20 odd years, 21 years. And it's never really got smaller. If it's ever got smaller, it's only got smaller for a very short period of time, and it's quickly replenished. And that's not because I'm deliberately wanting as many bottles as I can possibly get my hands on. Even before I had a YouTube channel or I was using bottles for content, it was a very, very natural thing. It was nothing to do with a flex. I didn't want to show off. If anything, all my whiskey is kind of hidden away in a wee tiny room at the back of the house. It's not on display generally. We do have a cabinet in one of the front room, one of the kind of areas that the guests come into now, but it's made to look quite pretty and subtle and that type of thing, and backlit, as I was mentioning earlier. But generally, the collection selection that I have here just now is an incidental product of my passion, of my flavour chasing, and in the last 9 years, this thing on YouTube. It's inevitable that I'm going to build up more through generating content, but also another wee excuse to kick things off. If I'm going to review something and try and be objective or try and kind of guide you guys on something, whether that's in a vPub, whether that's in a written article, whether that's in a recycled review, it doesn't matter where it is. I have to be able to not only judge what's in the glass, but I also have to be able to judge it with respect to the other things that are around it. Its peers, for example, other things in the same price bracket, and just kind of have a good idea of how good quality, how good value that whiskey is in the wider landscape context. So that's another kind of reason for me to justify the scale of my collection, which I will share with you before we close out tonight. But I don't feel a desire or a need to justify it. I don't feel any shame or any guilt over the accumulation that I've had. It's just an incidental product of where whiskey has taken me. So while I will be sharing and telling truths and things tonight, and I may portray that it's a confession, know that it's not out of any kind of feeling like I need absolved, or I need to be given permission to collect these bottles. I'm flat cam with it. I'm absolutely fine with it. But the other thing I want to be clear about as well is that it's not showing off. It's not a flex. There is, it's in a wee room in my house for a reason, because it's a very, very difficult to explain to people when they see it for the first time. They see all these bottles of booze and they think, what is going on? They think it's rather startling and they find it difficult. And you can understand that. You can maybe understand or remember a point in your life before you'd started accumulating whiskey and how you might have reacted if you'd seen it. Fusty Puddin is in as well. Good to see you, buddy. But make me be saying, you often say you give away bottles you've reviewed to friends, but what if they're rubbish? Do you give them to your enemies? I only gift bottles away, especially open bottles, specifically open bottles, if I'm in a situation where my friend has been going, oh, this is amazing, this is really good, I love this. And maybe I'm at their house, maybe they're here, and I just kind of go, yeah, take that with you, you can have that one. And I hope that I don't need it. I gave away a Glengoyne White Oak recently and found myself in a recent vPub just in the past few weeks thinking that would be a good fit for that. This would be a good bottle to hold up, and I went to look for it and I remembered I'd given it away. So there's also this idea of me building a library here for future use as well. So when I give bottles away, I have to kind of look at it and think, it's probably a small chance I'm going to need this, and then kind of hand it away. Or I'm going to give it away because it's something that I can replace easily, and I can give it away then. It does absolutely happen. Jimmy Legs bought me a dram to say, I thought Wally did a very responsible job reviewing the new Aaron on Dramface. You should strive for that kind of objectivity. That's right, Aaron 14. There's a Brook Laddie coming out on Dramface tomorrow. A wee heads up. Brodie did an entire flight of 7 single malts of Scotland's. We started off the week with a new riff. Trying to remember what else went out there in between. There was a couple. It's been a fantastic week on Dramface this week. Really loving the content that's coming out there, loving the collaborative nature of all of these kind of individual enthusiasts buying their own whiskey and sharing it with everyone. Dramface is, I have to, it's just a fantastic thing. And I'm guilty of not talking about Dramface enough on the vPub. I should remember to mention it at least every week. It's such a precious thing. It's rare for things like that to exist. Completely independent. There's no affiliate links, no ads. It's fully paid for and supported by subscribers who pay $3.99 a month, which honestly, I can't tell you the last time I bought a magazine, but I don't think you can buy a magazine for $3.99 a month. It's close to daily content, Monday to Friday. We miss some days, bank holidays and things like that, but you're getting probably 20 articles a month, in excess of 30 bottles reviewed every month on Dramface. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks, Jimmy, for your dram. Thanks for your kind words as well. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. And Andy's saying, we get that a lot when we have someone new around, when they see the wee nuke under the stairs. And then you have to tell them it's just the tip of the iceberg. Blair Stevens is saying, my collection is hidden across multiple rooms of the house, fitting inside cupboards that tiny hands can't reach. I genuinely forget what I have sometimes. I have to say it's an issue even when it's in a cabinet as well, buddy. It's just the way of it. But it's a little bit like finding some pocket change or a washed £20 note sometimes when you come across a peach that's been hidden at the back. Franz is saying, I've been working towards collecting 1 to 2 of all Scottish distilleries' aquavitae, usually an ex-bourbon independent bottle, either an OB or a cask contrast. Haven't reached the goal yet, but getting closer. That in itself is interesting. Franz, I would push you towards maybe calling that type of project, that type of goal, a collection. And Mick is saying, Aquavitae, good friends like making their friends happy. Giving a friend a whiskey that they like is an incredible gift to be able to do. It's also a wee bit easier for me, Mick, isn't it? Because of the sheer amount that I'm sitting on. But I have to say, the most generous people I've ever met in my life have been in the whiskey sphere. Jimmy's saying, to be fair, I was talking about Wally. No, you were being nice about Dramface. That's what I wanted to say thank you about. All right, over 300 of you, and it's about time we started putting some numbers up so that I could share with you. I'm going to start today, and I'm going to break it up into doing this over 3 different ways. I'm going to start by talking about how we got here, where have we arrived, but what was our journey in getting here? That's the first thing I kind of want to cover. So let's try and put a number on things. Let's try and measure the size of the animal. Here's some interesting numbers for you. And we've been doing this over the years now. We started this in 2022 was the first time we kind of did a glass lock type whiskey collections deep dive. We did it a bit later in the year as well in 2022. Then I did a glass lock session with Andre Haberecht at the start of 2024, I think that was. And then at the start of 2025, about 18 months ago, 17 or 18 months ago, I did the last session talking about whiskey collections and the scale of it all. So we've got some data points, but I've summarized them. I'm not going to show you the pie charts and things like that. It's very difficult for me to work out what's the best way just to get it across. But the takeaway before we go into all of this tonight is that the needles haven't moved particularly far in any direction. It's quite interesting to see how stable we are, but where it has moved, it makes sense. So I've put wee punchlines and conclusions in there for everyone to see. Let's get this screen share up so that I can share it with you. If you're listening podcast style, I'll do my best to narrate this so that you don't need to actually see all of these numbers that you're just about to be bombarded with. But I'll add this to the screen just now so that I can bring up the first of the questions that I put out on this survey that everyone's been doing in the background once more. And I asked the question about scale. Quite simply, how many bottles of whiskey do you have at home in your personal collection selection? Now, I didn't just ask how many bottles do you have. I'm specifically talking about whiskey here. Back in 2024, we gave everyone the option of somewhere less than 20 all the way up to over 400. Less than 20, only 7% of us. So there's quite a lot of us with decent collections, 20 to 50, 18%, 50 to 100, 21%. 100 to 200, 28%, that's the highest number. So between 100 and 200 seems to be the peak back in 2024. Let's see how that's changed. 200 to 400, 16%. And amazingly, 9% of us have over 400 bottles. 9% of us are not giving anything away by suggesting that is where I am at. So where did we get to in 2025 when I shared an update with you last year? Well, I'm going to, if the number comes up green, it's gone down, and if the number's red, it's increased, it's gone up. Less than 20 is down to 4%. So we started to see a movement where people were collecting more. 20 to 50 went down to 14%. 50 to 100 it stayed about the same. So then we start to see the bigger numbers going up. So we see that 100 to 200 jump up to 29 a wee bit, just a tiny increase. A much bigger increase in the 200 to 400 going up to 20%. And the 9% of 400 plus collectors had increased to 11%. That's quite a jump. So the conclusion back then was we were in an accumulation phase. 2026, where are we today? People with less than 20, from 4% last year, they're still at 4% this year. Stability. There's enough people in our community, and hopefully it's people that are coming in and just starting their whiskey journeys and being very, very comfortable just having a small selection. You only need a handful of bottles to really start learning about whiskey, let's be honest. 20 to 50 has dropped a wee bit, 12%. 50 to 100 has also dropped a wee bit, 2% over both those bands. But then we get to the 100 to 200 and we see another jump again. This has jumped up again. So I suggest that those smaller numbers that have dropped is because people are accumulating and they're moving into the triple figure bands now. Over 200 to 400, 22%, another slight increase. And people over 400 has remained pretty stable. Remember, I'm rounding here as well, so there's no decimal places here. I'm rounding up or down or whatever the closest whole number is. But we're still about 10% of the community with over 400 bottles in their collection. So our conclusion when it comes to scale has to be something along the lines of, look, it's pretty steady, but a gradual continued rise in the glass loch we have at home. What do I mean by the glass loch? Well, it's obviously a play on the whiskey loch of the 1980s. It's kind of like this kind of static stock build-up. And the whiskey loch was in cask. Back in the 80s, it was all in cask. But today we have a shift, because back in the 70s and 80s, there was very little of this accumulation of whiskey bottles going on. There was very little people chasing multiple bottles of whiskey for flavour's sake, almost as if it was, you know, fine foods or wine or coffees or whatever else. That wasn't really a thing, and that started to kick off in the 70s and the 80s, and it built a lot of steam in the 90s and until we find ourselves where we are today. But the whiskey stock today is very granular because it's at home in people's houses. So that's when I talk about the glass loch, I'm talking about things that's been bottled. And that can obviously be in warehouses up and down the country. It can be in retail outlets, of course. But I think the majority of it today is actually at home. And what's interesting is I think that the industry has started to discuss not how to control whiskey in cask as much, not how to control the supply chain, the warehouses, the retail outlets, that type of thing, because that's all within their control. They can do things to increase and reduce capacity, to increase and reduce warehouse space, whether that's maturation warehouse or dry goods stock warehouse. They can do all of that, and they can even work with retailers to manipulate pricing and offers and deals and things to control the stock at retail. But what they can't do, what they have very, very little control over, is how to clear the domestic stock, the stock at home. That's very much within our realm. And they've realized that the sheer amount of bottles that we're accumulating at home can directly affect the throughput, the sales that they're able to realize. Anyway, a continued rise in the glass loch at home is the conclusion there. But let's talk about habit. Are we drinkers or are we hoarders? And I asked everybody, how many would you say of your collections at home are open? So back in 2024, I gave everyone a choice between 0, a few, a bit less than half, around half, more than half, most of them, or all of them. Only 0.5% had 0 open. So very, very few people are kind of in the realm of our community anymore for the pure kind of fetish of polished, sealed bottles, maybe collecting articles or that type of thing rather than drinking it. I think if you come into our community, into the community on whiskey online on YouTube and lots of other spaces online, if you go to festivals like we do, if you get together and you enjoy and you share whiskey, I think it's very, very unlikely that you're in that realm. But there are some of us out there. A few people with only a few bottles open back in 2024 was 23%. A bit less than half was 29%. That's the highest number there. So we're talking about a few. We're talking about very, very canny people who are very good at just keeping a few open at a time. 23% and 29% respectively. Around half, 11%. A bit more than half, another 11%. But another big jump in the number again. People with most of them open, which is, I would have to say, is where I would tick that box there, is 20%. 20% are saying most of them are open. And there's some, 5 of them are even saying, look, all of them are open. And I can understand that. That used to be my collection. I had very, very few sealed bottles. 2025, that changed quite a bit. 0 dropped a wee bit. A few also dropped a wee bit. So we started to lose the type of people that were kind of more very, very, very occasional. They weren't really in it for the flavour. They were in it for the product. Again, less than half dropped a wee bit as well, 29 down to 25%. But then we start to see some strange things happening, about half of them being open. So it's not just a case of we've lost these people. Maybe these people have started to open them. It jumped from 11 to 18% in 2025. More than half open also jumped a wee bit, 2% up. Most jumped also. So we're seeing a trend into opening in 2025, the last time we did this, and all of them, people with all of them open, stayed stable at 5%. So where does that leave us in 2026? Today, the amount of our community with 0 has dropped again. We're down again to 0.3%. Hopefully they're opening them and sticking with us. A few of them open has dropped again to 15%, and people with half has gone up a wee bit. So about half open, 28%. Then we see some kind of weird things happening up and down. People with, sorry, a bit less than half was 28%, but around half is 13%. So that's a big drop. And I suggest that it's because people are opening bottles. More than half has gone up to 14%. Most has jumped up to 25%. And all of them has stayed pretty stable around 4%. So my conclusion to the habits and whether we're drinkers or hoarders or not is just a kind of trying to sum it all in a short sentence, but we're still steady, but we see a slight reduction in consumption. We are seeing, I do believe that people are opening more. I think that there are people who are moving out of whiskey who were here from a collection perspective and things like that. But if you were to just look at this screen, despite there being a couple of numbers there, like the 2024 half to the 2025 half jumping up hugely, generally speaking, it's pretty steady. It's stable. Finally, for this segment, what's our intention? So this is me deep diving into a wee bit more about how many people are actually involved in chasing flavour, opening, drinking, sharing, that type of thing, and how many people are thinking about buying bottles of whiskey to trade, either to swap or to sell or to invest in, all of that type of thing. In 2024, 53%, over half of us were into it for opening and drinking. Mostly opening was 35%. So add those two numbers together, we've got 88%. It's almost everything. It's exactly what this community is about. People admitting that they had a mix of opening bottles and trade, 8%. The people who are saying mostly for trade or all for trade, back in 2024, that was 3%, 2 and 1% respectively. 2025, that changed a wee bit. 57%, big jump. People opening and drinking, fantastic. A slight drop in mostly opening, but it's absolutely stable. It's the same number. Mix of open and trade down. Mostly for trade, it's staying stable, but it's actually down if you allow for rounding. And also all for trade also down a wee bit. So people in 2025 just started to get tore into the bottles and got started to open them up. As that continued in 2026? Well, the people opening and drinking is staying stable at 57%, well over half of us, actually approaching 2/3 of us. And if you add in mostly opening, that's 35%, so that's increased as well. So we're in a situation now where we've got, what is that, 92% of our community is opening and mostly opening and drinking and sharing. That means that the numbers that are left for mix of open and trade is down to 5%, down to 1% most for trade, and all for trade is down to 0.3%. So the conclusion to that is a slight move towards opening, sharing, and drinking with less in it for trade. I think that's all pretty obvious. And while a lot of your own personal experiences is probably going to be a little bit anecdotal, I think you're going to feel that that's the way the community is moving. Over the pandemic, over lockdown, we found ourselves having discussions with a lot of people who are clearly interested in what to collect, what's hot, what's the next thing. I don't want to judge. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think what I would like to say is that I prefer being in the company of people who like to open and share their whiskies. I think we all do. Anyway, I'm getting pop-ups suggesting that I should make a goal for super chats and things like that. That's not what I do. Let's get rid of that. Greg's Drampage has just joined the Aquaviti Barflies. Greg, thank you very, very much. I'm not even sure I've welcomed you in the Barflies before, but it's nice to have you here, buddy. And thank you for stepping up to support us, a Barfly. Cesar the Fly Moocher, good to see you, buddy. Saying, hi, everybody. I have 2 RM14s now. Okay, you have two. They are in 14 now. Fantastic, says Ari. I think you're over in Poland, aren't you, buddy? I hope you're enjoying it. And he sent out 5 Aquavitae gift memberships. So 5 random people are going to become a barfly for the month. I hope you consider hanging about and staying along. Thank you, Cesare, for your generosity, buddy. It means a lot. And Inverurie Whisky Shop has done the very same thing. It's probably Mike, isn't it, sending out 5 Aquavitae gift memberships to Cesare and Mike. Thank you both very, very much indeed. Cheers to you. Jimmy Legacy and Aquavitae, you're all responsible for me having more open bottles. I guess you're a good influence. If you're enjoying them, surely it's a good thing. Surely it is. John Ginger Genius is in. Good to see you, buddy. Aquavitae, I have to admit, I think the value of signatories, 100% proof, 100 degrees proof, has made me open a lot more bottles. That's right. It's kind of like it's taken away a lot of the baggage that came with a lot of these purchases. When you're able to buy good quality, 57.1% ABV whiskies between 40 and 50 pounds, and there's lots of it, there's lots of variety to chase, all of that type of thing. I think it's very encouraging, isn't it? Overland Drams is saying, mine has definitely grown, exploring the American whiskey scene beyond Kentucky. That's right, Chuck, isn't it? It's not just bourbon outside of Kentucky, it's all the American single malts and all the rye and the endless kind of mixes and hybrids and things that we're seeing coming out of all these kind of really creative distilleries. Whiskey Weekend Drama is saying less than half, around 25% is open Aquavitae. That's fine, Harrow. You're probably doing most of it on your own as well. I think a lot of us, when we get involved in whiskey groups and little friendship circles and things like that, our whiskey tends to get opened quicker. But if we tend to do a lot of our whiskey chasing and flavour chasing and things as a solo pursuit, it can be harder to manage. So I think we have to find the thing that works for us all. Dave Peatyboy saying, out of 60 bottles, I have only 2 bottles unopened, with both of them inaugural bottles. Fantastic, Dave. And Scott Allen in Arizona. Scott, how are you keeping, fella? When I buy a new bottle, he's saying I open it. My collection is on the smaller side, so it makes it easier to open. Good to have you in, Scott. I hope Becky's doing well. Blair Stevenson is saying, a change in human behaviour or a change in the makeup of the community. Your thoughts? I think it's a wee bit of both. I think the community is behaving a wee bit better. I think we were also infected a little bit by the Scrum mentality, the constantly refreshing the F5 on our keyboard when a bottle dropped and things like that during lockdown and post-lockdown. And I think that was something it's absolutely human behaviour, but we were affected definitely by that. And I think we're a bit more relaxed about that now. I let one slip recently. I think Yellow Submarine sold out, and I was kind of hovering on that. I thought that would be quite a nice one to pick up. I got an advanced taste of that. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It came out at £100, and I was like, I wasn't sure. £100 is a lot of money, 3 figures, right? And I paused and I went onto the Brooklandy website, and it was sold out, and I stopped. I didn't run around or chase elsewhere for it. If I happen across it when I'm in the mood, you never know. Doodle Drama is saying, Maria's given me a hard time about the amount of bottles on the temporary renovation whiskey shelf. I dread this weekend when she finds out 3/4 of my collection is still hidden in boxes. I'm laughing. It's not funny. It's not funny, Arnie. You've got to be open. You've got to be honest. You can't make it look like some kind of scary, terrible thing, right? Troubleberg is saying, open by Middleton. Dargalich. Grinsell Woods for retirement. I bought it from Ireland 10 years ago. You got it opened to celebrate the retirement. Fantastic, Troubleberg. Fantastic, Hoyt. I hope it's as delicious as you imagined. Gordon Burniston is in. Most bottles are open, waiting to be opened, but I have been buying older bottles as a small collection of sorts. Nothing fancy, 2000s or early mania, as I like the older label designs. I love them too. And I love the ability that whiskey can give us sometimes. It's not always stable, but whiskey's mostly stable. So there's a little bit of a time capsule thing going on there as well, Gordon. Nice to have you in, buddy. Amy's asking, did you actually see the news? No, Amy, you need to try and time it so there's 364 people in and all the chat's going in. I'm so sorry. You need to keep pasting in the news. I didn't see it. Barry Coleman saying, I have 2 bottles I can't seem to open any time I go to taste them. I just put them back and go to something else. No idea why, just waiting for the time. we just need to follow our mood, Barry. That's just the way it is. Lolander is saying, I've definitely cut back on my purchasing of bottles compared to a few years ago. I expected everybody to come in and say, I've cut back, I've cut back, I've cut back, I've cut back. The same thing I expected to happen last time, actually, when I did this survey. I think we might be surprised. Hellswood is saying, crazy few days at work. Early parachute for me. Looking forward to the charity event for Ben at Kwangtung on Sunday. Lots of fun ahead. I hope to be able to see you there, Helen. Fantastic. Good to know that you're making it up from the peninsula for Sunday. I have all my bottles, open it and share from everyone. Fantastic, says Ari. It's the only way to do it, isn't it, buddy? And thank you once more for your dram and your generosity. Getting to end this, Kilkerran. I think we'll open something. There's a lot of bottle bans. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of hard stops that we put in. And I think it's good to kind of figure out what works for each of us as individuals. I tend to find that when I put hard stops in for anything, it's either to cut back on consumption, to cut back on buying, or whatever it is, then realize that was easy, I can do that. When you come back again, you've kind of freed yourself of the burden a little bit and you hit it a bit harder, right? You go crazy and you spend a bit too much money and things like that. Because in the back of your head, you're thinking, well, I saved all that money while I wasn't spending. Whatever it is, however you think, it's not the same for everyone. I try and balance things. My priority is, can I use this for content? Do I need this? Is there a good topic? Does this give me something that I can talk about? Is this something that the community is going to be interested in? That type of thing as well. But there's so many things that are just, I'm still a whiskey lover at heart. I'm still a passionate whiskey geek. And there's bottles that drop. And if I'm going to use it for content, I need to contrive the justification, right? I need to, if I'm going to put it up on screen. So there are bottles that will never appear on screen in the vPub. And these are kind of personal things for my own journey, my own experience, things like that, my own indulgence, all the rest of it. And there's going to be a couple of those that I'll share with you tonight. So I have been able to contrive a way to get them onto the vPub, right? And I've just had a festival bottling from Campbelltown Malts Festival from a couple of years ago, 2024. From that Kilkerran, it's absolutely delicious. I didn't make it to Fèis this year. The last time I was at Fèis was in 2022, I think. I think it was 2022. It could have been 22. No, it was 2022 is the last time I was at Fèis. And there's been a few releases over the years where I've thought, nah, too expensive, too bizarre, too forced, just too weird. I'm not interested. But there's been a few that I've thought, oh, I'd like that. And one of them has been from this distillery. And thanks to the Mule Network, thanks to my friend Paul, he reached out to say, hey, I can bring back a bottle of this if you want it. And I was immediately like, aye, please. This is from one of the most exciting new distilleries out there. You know how much I love this because I was eager to collaborate with them to release a bottle last year. And we managed to do that. We managed to release a 6-year-old of Ardnahoe last year. This is a 7-year-old from them. This is the Fèis release for 2026. And it's all from bourbon barrels. Of course it is. This was £85. Wee bit pricey, but come on, we're talking a Fèis special release, 830 bottles, this one. Cast strength. All the good stuff. Selected 830 bottles. I would imagine it's likely to be 3 casks. Is it 3 casks or 4? Bottle number 473 of 830, numbered as well. Let's get a wee bit of it in the glass. We're going into the peat early tonight. So, I could be on a situation where I'm saying, nah, I was down at the Malts Festival. I brought back enough bottles from that. I bought more than I intended when I was down there. Of course, it's inevitable. Not going to buy any more. And then somebody sends you a message to say, hey, I can mule a bottle back for you from Fèis. And immediately it's one of the ones that I want. And I'm absolutely going to add that to the collection selection immediately. It's been in my hands about 2 days. And it's already uncorked and in the glass. This is the type of whiskey that I'm curious to try. Regardless how young it is, The Ardnahoe releases so far have been exemplary. Cold smoke immediately on the nose. Cold, kind of nice vanilla fondant. But there's a cool outdoor nature to this. It's very coastal, it's very smoky, it's very sooty. It's very Ardnahoe. Some lemon drizzle cake, freshness. It's nosing soft to me. This is cast strength whiskey. This is high ABV. This is 59.7. That's incredible. You would nose this and think early 50s, I would imagine. No alcohol prickle, no heat. Composed, lovely, classic Islay style. So despite it being quite rugged and outdoors and fresh and bright, there's also a kind of there's a quite a nice, tight elegance about it as well. It noses like a good Lagavulin, and I mean that as a compliment. I really do. Cheers, everyone. A lovely, almost sherbet-like effervescent fizz on arrival. Huge waves of bright lemon and lime citrus. Sweet, that vanilla fondant thing is back. The effervescence, helped by the higher ABV, quite intense, creamy, very similar to the Aquavitae release last year. Bags of coal fire, coal soot, ash, salinity, minerality, coastal rock pools. It's nice to have a second sip where your brain has calibrated a little bit to the high ABV, so you can connect a little bit with it and get some texture, some nice light oiliness, some nice, almost kind of velvety mouthfeel. Long finish, little bit of kind of sugar sweetness on the finish, ice and sugar saccharin, light vanilla, dreamy, and it'll probably help me and save me from attacking the Aquavitae releases from last year. Fantastic. Amy is saying, so the news is I'm part of this year's Our Whiskey Foundation, where I can finally make content like I told you and you and the others pushed me to do. I hope I didn't push you. I hope I didn't push you, Amy. But the way you talked about it made it clear that it was something that you wanted to do, so it was inevitable. You have to go forward to it. Congratulations to you. I hope it's everything you want it to be, Amy. Well done. Cheers to you. Jenny Carlson is in. Jenny, good to see you. Does anyone else look for whiskey bottle shelves when visiting new folk to decide if I can be friends with them or not? Listen, if they don't have any, that's just an opening. All you need is a wee sliver of curiosity, Jenny, and you can do what you do so well. You can just... Some people would suggest bully. I prefer to use the word evangelize them. Mike is saying, you talked a wee while ago about the new gateway to Islay being Port Charlotte. I think Ardnahoe is very close to claiming that title at a very young age. I think it's ridiculous. Now, it doesn't always track that whiskey's always going to go better, get better as it gets older. You know, especially I think we have to be careful just how much of it is in new wood and things like that. But I think that the track that Ardnahoe is on at a ridiculously young age is quite a thing to witness. It's truly a thing to witness. Another thing I loved witnessing as well, and I absolutely adore the Thompson brothers for putting this out, but they got a case of their, and I want to do a vPub, I want to buy a case of the mystery malts. and me to sit together with someone else like a Roddy or somebody like that and genuinely try to do an earnest blind tasting with them live in front of all of you guys. But they did that. They did a pre-record in the dungeon, and I think that they didn't do as well as I don't want to spoil the video for anyone that hasn't seen it yet. But one of the things that surprised everyone, including me, when they were tasting through these whiskies, is that the two, I think it was early on in the flight, two of the whiskies were very, very young whiskies from new distilleries, and they were both thoroughly impressed by them. It was worth a watch. Just go back. It's on the Thompson brothers YouTube channel. Wonderful to see. No hubris anywhere. Just absolute humility, opening and trying their absolute best to do a semi-blind matchup against the latest series, Outturn of the Mystery Malts, which is by far the most diverse as well. It's got to be the toughest one to try and do. John is saying, on my journey, I found springtime is crazy for releases. However, every year I overspend and I still never learn. And I think if you're doing it within your means, John, I don't think you need to feel guilty about it. You know, you could have another hobby. You could be playing golf or fishing or be into motorbikes or cars, or there's loads and loads of ways for you to fritter away money, isn't there? But I think it's important that we find things that keeps us well within our means and ways to manage it. But if you're managing it, it's okay, as long as you're enjoying the stuff that you're picking up. Pushed in a good way, Aquaviti, says Amy. Fantastic. And Remco de Vries, good to see you, buddy. I know I've welcomed you before. He said Aquaviti. A 3-time capsule bottles that will be opened last, older and then affordable bottling of Arran 18, Old State Annock 16, and Annock 18. I have one or two of those as well, buddy, and they're there for special moments with certain people. Fantastic. Chris Paul, I can say I loved how they succeeded in their blind tasting. Yes, that's a good way to put it, Chris, and thanks for not spoiling the video as well so that people will go along and watch it. All right, let's see how we're getting on. So we've talked about our collections, how we got here, that type of thing. And now I want to kind of draw a wee bit more up to the present day, where we are today. You know, we're talking about, you know, the pragmatism that we just heard from Ginger Genius John there when he's talking about the springtime thing. He knows he's going to spend a bit more. He doesn't really learn, and he probably knows that when he hits the next kind of purple patch of releases that bring lots of things out that he's interested in, he's probably going to fall for it all again and pick up things just the same as I am. The bottles that I'm going to share with you tonight are going to be based on that thing. I look at it and go, oh, I can't let that pass. I've got to try and pick that up. I know that's going to be good. I know I want to talk about it. I know I want to share it. I know I want to just sit in my slippers on the sofa at night and indulge myself and enjoy the thing. So I just do it. So where are we now? Where has that left us now? How have we've talked about the size of the collections and all that type of thing, but I want to talk about where we are today and how we feel about all of that, where we are at. So there were a couple of questions in our survey that I put out there that talked about that. That talked about where we are on our journey and how we're feeling about it. So let's cover that now. Let's spend a wee minute covering that and talk about, that's the wrong thing. That's the quiz. It's not time for the quiz yet, is it? And I asked everybody, the next question in the survey was, what are your feelings about your collection? Okay, how are you feeling? Is it bringing anxiety, or are you quite happy about it? Are you a bit more kind of pragmatic? In 2024, I have too many. 16% of you admitted that you felt you had too many. But then 39% of you, more than double that number, said, I've got a lot, but I'm okay with that. 23% said, I've got a lot and I know that it's going to grow. 8% of you admitted that you feel like you need more. You're still exploring. Like Franz was talking about having 2 contrasting bottles from each of Scotland's operational distilleries. So you know that you have to click, I need more. And then 11% of you were like, yeah, you know what, I don't really plan it. So that was 2024. That changed in 2025 a wee bit. 17%, it went up a wee bit, saying that you had too many. Another big jump, saying a lot, but I'm okay with it, went from 39% to 44%. The ones that were open and accepting the fact that they've got a lot, but they know it's going to grow, was stable, but it dropped a teeny wee bit, 23 to 22%. People saying they need more dropped though, 6%. We have to be realizing that the word need there is probably a bit clumsy. Would like more, feel like we should have more. There's lots of different ways to kind of pitch that. Anyway, it dropped a wee bit. The don't plan it stayed about the same, 11% to 10%. Anyway, how are we in 2025? What are our feelings about our collection in 2026? Sorry, where are we this year? I have too many has gone up again. So we're now up at 19% of people saying, okay, I have too many. The people that are saying that they have a lot, but they're okay with it, has dropped to 35%. So they've moved somewhere else, haven't they? People saying they've got a lot, but it will grow, has stayed stable at 22%. Need more has gone up a wee bit. So people that are actually open to and knowing that they're going to chase more, it's only gone up a tiny bit, but it has gone up a wee bit. And the people saying that don't plan it has dropped a wee bit as well. So I don't feel like those numbers can add up. Have I made a mistake there? Let's do a quick, I hope I've not made a mistake, because I don't think I'm going to be able to fathom where the mistake is. There's not enough light in here for this to work. I should be able to add that up in my head. Yeah, there isn't. Oh, I tell you why. The reason is that these numbers don't add up in this segment, because it was an open question and people were able to add. If they didn't feel like their option was, they could tick an option here, they were able to put in something else. So we can see that this doesn't cover all the options for everybody, how they're feeling about it. So there was a kind of lot of freestyling and a lot of answers. So that's why we've got not 100% here. But if I read through the comments and I read through the other things, the answers that people were filling themselves, the conclusion was along the lines of, we've got a slight increase in awareness towards feeling like we have too many, but also a general pragmatism. So it's a little bit like Ginger Genius John talking about it there. He knows he's going to pick up too many, but he's also, awareness is the first step. He can't take action until he knows his behavior, right? So it is just what it is. So what about our habits? What's happened in the last 12 months? What do we feel we've achieved in the last 12 months? We're going to talk about the future as well, but how we got here, how we're at here. Back in 2024, 2% of you decided that you'd stopped. Slowing down a lot and slowing a little was 60%, 30% each, respectively. Slowing a lot, 30, slowed a little, 30. Sitting about the same number, but a steady pace, 21%. So slowing down or staying about the same covers, you can see there, 81%. Whereas 11% decided that you'd increased a little, and 7% admitted to increasing a lot. Then in 2025, 18 months or so ago, the people who said that they've stopped stayed stable at 2%, slowing down increased by 3% to 33, slowing down a little stayed stable at 30. People saying they were about the same was at 22. That's up a little bit, but not much. Increased a little had dropped down to 8%. And increased a lot had dropped down to 5%. So we can see in 2025, we saw a slowdown. How's 2026 treating us? Well, I can tell you the people that are saying they stopped in the last year is down to 1%. That's not much of a swing, but it's a number. Slowed down a lot, also dropped down to 29%. So they've moved somewhere. Slowed a little has also down to 27%. So here's where we're going to see red numbers, I predict. People that are sitting about the same has gone up. A huge chunk has gone up to 28%. Increased a little has gone up to 10%, and increased a lot has stayed roughly stable and gone down maybe a smidge to 4%. So we can see what's happened there is that if we're going to be honest about where we've been spending and how we've been spending over the last year, this, regardless of what our intentions were back in 2025, the truth is over the course of the last year, we've actually probably end up either spending about the same or buying about the same, or maybe even increasing a little bit. So the conclusion there is we've got a slight increase in purchasing across the community. So there we have it. The rest of this we'll be able to talk about the future and our outlook and things like that, and I can give you the same numbers for there, because it is quite interesting. When you would expect a lot of people to say, okay, I've had enough, I'm not buying anymore, there's really quite an interesting, almost like a peaceful calm and acceptance, a kind of chilled attitude about the community, that they're okay with it. I see Eric Waite in tonight. Eric, I see your name and commenting away and having a chitty chat. It's nice to see you, fella. How are you doing? Sam Davison is saying, Aquaviti, maybe you should ask, do you think you'll be able to finish your whiskey collection? That's not even a goal. I would say that if I tried to finish my collection, and Sam, I'm going to disclose tonight at the end of the session tonight, before the quiz at the end, I'll tell everyone how many bottles there are currently cluttering up the vPub. And it's gone way beyond the ability for any single individual to consume it. I think it's obviously, it's fine, it is what it is and all of those things, but I think it's even gone beyond me being able to kind of share all of this whiskey and have enough events in order to get through it as well. So it's really quite interesting. I mean, when I shuffle off this mortal coil, right, there's going to be whiskey left behind at some stage, and somebody else is going to have to deal with that. Whether that's kind of pouring it away, putting it in a cask, or giving the bottles away, doing whatever with it. There's just no way I'm going to be able to do it. But when I do shuffle off this mortal coil, the pleasure of being able to taste from all of these bottles before I do so is all about why I'm here and enjoying it right now. Whiskey is one of these things that through, you've heard me say it if you've been around the channel for long enough, there are no vitamins in this, there's no carbohydrates to talk about really, there's no calories, there's no nutrients, we don't drink or consume this for sustenance. We drink and consume this for how it interacts with our primary senses, how it makes us feel. The only justification for consuming this is for it to connect with all of those primary senses and remind us of what it is to be alive. That's why I enjoy each of these individual events every time I open a bottle of whiskey and enjoy it. And Andy's saying more quality than quantity for us. Well, that's what we keep telling ourselves. I would say that you've been in it long enough now, both of you, that you're going to be able to, it's going to be very rare for you guys to pick up a dud. You know what you're doing now. And Cesare's saying, Roy, one bottle for everyone and solved problem. I might even have to grow the community to be able to do that. Dave Peterboy is saying we consume this for sheer pleasure and enjoyment. Absolutely, Dave. Absolutely. And Mike is saying, what's the Lady of the Glen bottle behind you? It's actually a gift from my pal, Ambrose, who I didn't get to meet when he was in Glasgow because he was in Glasgow while I was down at the Campbelltown Malts Festival, so we couldn't meet up. But I got a message from him to say that I should drop into the Good Spirits Company. He's left something behind for me, and it was something that he was really keen for me to try. And it's a 21-year-old Auchentoshan from Ambrose. So the gift bottles that I get tend to sit up here for at least a vPub or two, maybe more, just to kind of, as a wee nod to everybody. When I share how many bottles I have, I hope it makes a lot of you who might have been thinking about gifting me a bottle to think twice. It's wonderful to enjoy the generosity of our community and exchange gifts and bottles and things like that. But honestly, it's very, very difficult for me to especially if there's any idea that I might be able to review it one day. It's almost impossible for me to review the bottles I've already got. So it's, yes, I'm very, very grateful for it. But please, there's no need to be buying gifts and things like that. Anyway, Ambrose, thank you very much for thinking of me. Thank you for your generosity, and sorry I wasn't able to meet you in Glasgow. So there you go. That's what it was. And there goes the delicious Ardnahoe. Jimmy's saying, honestly, I haven't bought a bad whiskey in 12 years. Quite a slow buying pace, though, haven't you, Jimmy? You're very, very circumspect. The space factor is key for me, says Giochi. He's saying, I have around 700 sealed bottles and 80 opened. I just don't have more space. I understand that completely. A lot of my bottles are quite low level, so a lot less weight on the shelf there, but I've still got the same. They take up the same amount of space, don't they, buddy? Luna's saying, let's give Lynn some wine. That would be a solution. And Lynn doesn't, she does drink wine, but she maybe drink, if she does drink once a week, most, I think. And Lowland is saying, don't worry, I'll continue to gift you some tea. You know, I've not even tried that tea yet, buddy. Nice to see you in, fella. I need to try it. Okay. Let's get the next bottle opened then. We mentioned Thompson Brothers a wee minute ago, didn't we? And we talked about their blind tasting and things like that. Well, here's a wee bottle that I couldn't let go past me. I've loved this in the years that we've had this. Every single time I held the bottle up, I'm sure I told everyone that this was not going to be able to last forever. And I hope that you were mindful enough that if you were going to increase your collection with duplicate bottles or stash something, this was definitely going to be a bottle that we were going to look back on and talk about. Do you remember that bottle? Do you remember? I thought it was going to become a bit of a classic, maybe a wee bit of a cult legend. And I'm talking about Thompson Brothers TBBSW, the 6-year-old. But what I have in my hands here is actually the final edition. The final release, they're calling it. I'll try and keep that in focus there. TBBSW. Look at the age statement right in the center here, 9 years old. So that's changed. Everything else looks the same on the label, apart from the red stamp to say it's the final release. But we've got a 9-year age statement on it now, 45% ABV, and they've only changed it for the final release. Why have they done that? Well, I can tell you that whiskey has been aging in cask all the while they've been releasing it. But they just continued to release it as the product that they've developed and released as a 6-year-old. But each year of release came from a different vatting of different casks, or each batch release, I should say, rather than year. Great. It was getting older. So now for the final release, we've actually got a 45% ABV, 9-year-old. It was always difficult. For years, it was difficult to find a sherry forward, a sherry style, a sherry profile whiskey that was going to be good quality, it was going to be delicious, that you felt confident recommending and didn't feel shame about pointing somebody towards a 67, 80 pounds bottle of whiskey. There weren't many sherry choices out there, and the ones that were out there had the sherry tax on top. They were a wee bit pricey, a wee bit expensive. Then the Thompson Brothers came out with the TBBSW, 6 years old. It was a product of an accident, we know that. It's limited stock, and it's now on its final release, but it was a peach to have around at the price. It launched at £34 or something like that. I ended up staying about the mid-30s. This final release at 9 years old has come out at 50 quid, I think. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn there. I think that's what the cost was, the price was. And it's right into a sumptuous dried fruit. Spread of figs, dried mangoes, dried apricots, but also beyond that, you've got these kind of booze-soaked raisins, black currants, even blackcurrant chews, blackcurrant chewits, blackcurrant starburst, whatever that kind of confectionery blackcurrant is there. So there is an acidity to it, there is a sharpness. But every time you put your nose, there's a wee bit of tobacco leaf even there. Just very, very of its style. Just a very good example. 50 quid as well. You know, you could put this in front of somebody and suggest that it's even older than 9 years and they would be quite happy sipping it. It behaves older than that, much older than that. Anyway, let's have a wee sip. Cheers, everyone. A little bit of soft treacle. So almost like a wee bit of a sweeter lick to this one. Maybe just the way I'm sipping tonight on the back of that PT Ardnahoe, maybe. There's a lovely kind of rich, kind of caramel, a treacle toffee type sweetness. Almost reminiscent of, and I know that the casks haven't changed or whatever, but there's just, it leans towards a wee bit of almost like PX in nature. This is gorgeous. It's going to be easy to pour this. My head's filling up with people that I know is just going to be going, oh, Roy, thank you. This is my kind of whiskey. Delicious. Delicious, delicious, delicious. Still full, still ripe. It's going to be one of these things that we will miss when it's gone. There should be plenty of it still out there in the supply chain, I hope. I hope wherever you are, if it's reached where you are, whether it's a 6-year-old or whether it's this final release from Thompson Brothers, if you like a wee decadent sherry fruitcake treat every now and again, I can honestly think of nothing better to recommend than this. I knew it was going to be good before I tucked into it. So Zari's saying good story, rough, good stuff, Roy. Sorry, Cesare, you didn't write that. I read that. He's saying fantastic. Annabelle is saying, anyone able to confirm with me, is there coffee stills on the TBBSW label and is there grain in it? It is said that it is a product, an accidental product of grain being added to malt whiskey. It does look to me to be drawings of coffee stills on the label alongside pot stills and a big cask in between the two. And it looks like a big cask. It looks like a butt, a sherry butt. But the proportion of grain is reportedly very, very small, incrementally splash-like small. It is a blended Scotch whisky. It's not a blended malt. It's not a malt whisky. It's a blended Scotch. It's a mix of grain and malt. But it sips like malt. Take from that what you will. Drum and Dart is here. Good to see the Lisbon Barflies. Had the 6-year-old TBBSW in a blind and it beat Craig Ellicky, 23-year-old, and Anok, 24-year-old. What a value bottle. What a way to do it as well. I have to be honest with you. That's the best way to... I have to hang out with the Lisbon. Sounds like the coolest group of whiskey folk on the planet, right? Maybe one day I'll make it over to Lisbon for a wee evening with Seb and the crew. Sorry, it's jumped there, but Meet Me saying the only part of my collection that isn't for drinking is 6 bottles of TBBSW sealed away for my retirement years. I like the way you're doing it. Inverurie Whiskey Shop is saying, is that your next release label, Roy? Good stuff. Good story, rough. That's right. I suppose it's going to be one of those if you know type labels. I'm really quite enamored with this. It's another good job. So tasty. And sometimes I think that it's not my favoured style of whiskey. You know, I'm more into bourbon and fresh and bright and outdoor and quiet and subtle and all of that. And then you taste something like that and you go, I love whiskey. I love all of it. I genuinely love all of it. Anyway, let's see how we're getting on. There's a couple of wee facts that I'm going to share with you that I don't think is going to surprise any of you. It's going to be talking about, we've talked about where we're at, the size of our collection, where we are today, and how we got here. We've covered that already. So if we then the questions turn a wee bit towards looking towards the future for this session. So we're going to talk about predictions, what we think is going to happen to our purchasing in the next year, what motivates us, our affordability, that type of thing, and our outlook and our perception of what whiskey is offering us today. That's going to be the last thing. That is before we get into me sharing what the most hoarded whiskies are in the vPub and what the most hoarded whiskies are in the community tonight. So I think we'll cover some of that now, and I think the best way we can do it is for me to pull this back up on screen, and I'll do my best. For those of you listening along, not watching along, I'll do my best to describe what we're sharing here, but we're going to talk about predictions and what you think will happen to your purchasing in the year ahead. You know where you're at, you know what you've been doing, you know what you've spent. We've shared the stats and we've shared the figures, but if I ask everyone, what do you think is going to happen and you're purchasing in the year ahead? When I did this back in 2024, I don't have any figures from 2022. It's gone back a wee bit too far into the depths of time. But 2024, people saying, I'll stop. Believe it or not, 4% of people suggested that they were going to stop. I'll slow down a lot was 39%, and I'll slow down a little was 31%. So you can see there an incredible 70% were saying, I'm going to slow down. 20% said, I'm going to keep it about the same. And, is next to nearest makes no difference. The people that we're going to answer in the last three categories, I'll increase a little, 5%. I'll increase a lot, 0.5%. And I don't know, 0.5%. Well, let's see what happened in 2025 last year when we did this. I'll stop reduced to 2%. So reality kicked in a little bit, and probably a lot of people realized that they couldn't stop or didn't stop. I'll slow down a lot, dropped from 39 to 34. I'll slow down a little, dropped, that should be a red number, that increased actually from 31 to 34. And people buying about the same went up. So some pragmatism is kicking in there. I'll increase a little, 4%, so that went down a touch, but it's pretty stable. And then the same for the other two, 0.5% each for I'll increase a lot and I don't know. So you can see people are kind of a wee bit determined still, the majority of people wanting to kind of keep it about the same or pump the brakes a little bit. But all the people that intended in 2024 to slow down didn't quite achieve it. In 2026, where are we today? Stable from last year, only 2% of us suggesting that we're going to stop. Slowing down a lot is 22%. I mean, that's a huge drop. 39 in 2024, down to 34 in 2025, down to 2022 and 2026. Sorry, down to 22% in 2026, I should say. So that's a huge, it's like a 12% drop. People slowing down a little is also dropped. Much smaller, 34 down to 33. People saying about the same has increased hugely. So we've got this kind of, again, I keep using the word pragmatism, this acceptance that I'm learning, I'm teaching myself, and I just need to settle with it. I'll increase a little is dropped down from 4% to 3%, and I'll increase a lot is also dropped, and I don't know. Again, people just accepting things. It's gone from negligible, nothing, 0.5% up to 2%. So the conclusion here, I think, is obvious. It's just acceptance. We know we're going to just keep enjoying it all. And we've got some stability, I think, back in the community now as well, where we kind of know what we're all about. We know what we're chasing. We know what we're after. We're going to buy less duds. We're going to go for the things that we really want to enjoy and things like that. And hopefully all the while we do it, we're going to be able to reach a guiding hand out to people that are coming in behind us and helping them to achieve the same goals as well. A couple of snapshots I want to share with you here. The first one talks about motivation, and I'll just show you this as a very visual thing. It's just a screen grab that I took rather than typing it out. Which of these do you consider most relevant to your decisions in purchasing whiskey? And I gave people all the options: space, price, variety, backups, collection expansion, collection completion, reputation of the bottle, fear of missing out, exploration, and taste. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots of things off the screen here, but and it pops up. This is the vast, vast, vast majority. People, the motivation, we are driven by exploration, by reputation, and by price. That's no surprise to anyone, is it? Reputation is going to be a product of the community chatter. It's going to be somebody's going to buy and try, and they're going to talk about it. They're going to evangelize. They're going to speak about it loudly. It's going to be something that expands their exploration, but it has to be the highest number there. 57.8% of the people say price is a major motivator. That should be obvious. There's lots of wealthy people out there that really are, that kind of care a bit less about price. But our community, price is very, very, very high in the sensitivity scale. And then I want to show you affordability. If we focus purely on that price, what price bands do you find yourself comfortable with when you're picking up your next bottle of whiskey? And look at it, it's very, very obvious. It's that retail sweet spot, isn't it? Now, in our community, we're a wee bit aware that for special bottles, we'll be happy to go closer up to that £100. Breaching the £100 to go between 100 and 150, only 32% of us are willing to push into that barrier. Over 150, it drops down to 9.3. More than £250, hardly any of us are left at that level, 4% of us only. But the big number, 78.7% of the people chose to tick the box that said 50 to 75. That's the retail sweet spot there. So just something interesting to share with you. So now if we look to the future, we look at the outlook and say, what are our feelings about the choice of whiskey that's available today? Is there far too much? Is there a lot, but it's healthy? Is there enough, or is there not enough? In 2024, 27% of you said there's far too much. But almost half of you, 47%, said there was a lot, but it was healthy. People suggesting there was enough was 18%, which meant that 2% said there was not enough. 2025, that changed a little bit. 28%, fairly stable, just up a nudge, saying it's far too much. 51% up again, saying there's a lot, but it's healthy. Enough dropped down to 14%, and not enough doubled to 4%. In 2026, where are we? How many people today think there's far too much? 2024, it was 27. 2025, it was 28. And 2026, far too much, 22%. This is crazy to me. I think what's happening is we're looking at this now and saying, do you know what? There's billions of whiskey out there, more independent bottlers than we've ever seen, more releases from core ranges than we've ever seen, more brands, more distilleries releasing. There's just more products coming out all the time. But it's better to have the choice than to not. We don't need to keep up with everything. There's plenty. We don't need it all. So it's amazing to see that number drop. A lot, but healthy. Like more pragmatism here. It's gone from 47% to 51%, up to 60% this year. We're saying, it's great that there's a lot of whiskey. That's the takeaway from that. It's great that there's a lot. People saying there's enough is stable from last year at 14 to 13%, and not enough has dropped back down to the 2% it was in 2024. So the conclusion that we take from this is we're sated, there's enough, and we're happy about it. We've got plenty of whiskey, and it's almost like we feel like that's the way it should be. We are happy to have all of this whiskey. I think that is a nice place to be. What say you? Gav's Drams is in. Good to see you. He said, I'll buy less, but more expensive whiskey. Gav, you're treating yourself. You're working your way towards the stuff that you're going to enjoy. Ginger Genius is saying, my wife suggested I stop. I have now realized I have a hearing problem. Well, you heard that. She'll start sending you in text message. Jeffrey Bangers is saying, the more I explore whiskey, the more whiskey I need to explore. It's a terrible problem. Good to have you in, Jeffrey, and it's good to have these kind of terrible problems in our lives, right? New Zealand David saying, great, there's a lot of choice. Amazing that it's now accessible for all. That's right. The prices are attenuating, softening a lot, primary and secondary. Also, the accessibility, it's getting out into more markets. There's less of a scrum for it. It's very, very positive. Cesare saying, Roy, people know what is good for them. They do indeed. My friend Jimmy Legg is saying, plenty of whiskey aquaviti, but never enough people drinking it. Whiskey people are the best. Oh, yeah, there's never enough people appreciating it, Jimmy. I think you're right. I think we could all do well, especially when kind of there's a trend and a fashion away from alcohol right now, which I think is folly. I think it's fallacy. I think if you look at us as a kind of a human product over our evolution over the years, alcohol is actually one of the things that's helped us be a bit more comfortable in our own skins, helped us kind of develop and explore and be creative and get on with each other. And we can talk about the evolution of glass came from alcohol, and glass gave us these lenses I'm wearing, which meant intellectuals had more years of yield, and glass, we were able to develop technology like valves and silicon chips and all of this thing. I'm justifying alcohol in ways that's crazy, right? But I think the fashion away from alcohol to see it as a poison and a bad thing and things that we need to, it's not, it's the abuse of alcohol that's bad. If we treat things with respect and balance and understand what it can bring from in a positive way, I know it's a difficult thing to get across. And it's not the same for everyone. Some people have a bad reaction to alcohol. It doesn't matter if it's a really expensive, beautiful, well-crafted, rare whiskey, or if it's just cheap slop. People can just have a bad reaction to it. It's not the same for everyone. But those of it that it works for, you know, these trends away from alcohol, especially by younger generations, they're pursuing clean living and things like that. Often I think the choices that they're making is actually more dangerous than if they were consuming alcohol in a social and balanced way. The alternatives that they're choosing over alcohol, to me, are often a wee bit more terrifying. Carl Taylor is in, feeling quite entitled, Aquaviti. Looking at this data, we appear to be in a self-described golden age of choice. There is definitely, right now, and I've been saying it for a couple of years now, you've been feeling it, Kyle, for a couple of years now, there's never been a better time to be into whiskey as we are right now. Meep is saying the problem is if you're a big fan of one distillery and feel the need to buy everything they do, if they double their output, then that's less you can spend on others. And I think that we're working that out. And we're going to talk about that tonight because I'm going to betray my top 5 hoards, and I'm going to betray the top 5 hoarded whiskies from the community as well. Scott Thor is saying, I struggle to understand how the amount of whiskey available now is healthy. Too many releases, a lot very average, and too much temptation to buy Aquaviti. And it's self-cleaning though, Scott, isn't it? Because we'll work together to work out where the good stuff is as a community. And that will ripple out. We live in the days of the internet. So we've got all these review sites. We've got kind of score aggregators like Whiskey Base and things like that. Word gets out what's good. And the average stuff and the stuff that's just out for the sake of it, or just to kind of bring out the next new thing, and maybe to leverage a little bit what Meat was talking about, trying to kind of the completionist thing, that's going to be forced to change as well. Think about what Gav was saying. He's probably going to spend a bit more getting the good stuff. And I think the industry needs to adapt a little bit. Stop kind of scattergunning. Stop the fire hose nonsense. Bring out a bit less, but bring out your best. The policy is quality over quantity, and less is more, I think, is what we should pursue. B. Vandergulik, I think I always get your name a wee bit wrong. Time for me to take out the dog. Thanks for the company, Aquaviti, and everyone. See you next week. Thank you for joining us tonight, buddy. And Hoyt is saying, I wonder if many of us have saturated our collections and have become more selective. That's an inevitability, Hoyt. And in fact, it should be a goal, I would suggest, to use your journey to develop a much better taste for your personal tastes, for what's good, for what you can share, all of that stuff. Overland Drams Chuck is saying, amen, brother, preach. Thank you, Chuck. And Doodle the Dram is saying, I was in a few months of the bottle ban, but also taught me the joy of being more picky and informed about buying bottles. It's great fun to buy less, but even more focused. Listen, I'll never shame anyone for buying bottles, because I vividly remember the guilt I felt about buying whiskey, buying bottles. I never hid it. I never squirreled it away. I never tried to hide it from my family or anything like that. But I remember thinking, oh, should I have bought this? Should I have bought this? And eventually, over time, I realized that, you know, what was I going to do with the money? You know, I don't need a new pair of jeans, because the jeans I've got are fine. You know, I'm working within my means. I'm just going to, no, do you know what? I'm just going to enjoy this whiskey. I'm not going to feel the guilt. And then eventually I worked out that I could start a YouTube channel and I could justify buying whiskey for that output and things. I'm making a joke here. That's not the reason for the YouTube channel. Of course it's not, but it's a nice kind of incidental benefit to it. I don't have the same guilt anymore. I do sometimes look and say, right, okay, I'm really not in the mood to be buying right now, and I buy less, I buy very selective things. And then other times I just say, okay, that's one for me. That's one as a treat. Dave is saying, balance is the key, Roy. It works for me. I'm in the center of the teeter-totter. As long as you can keep that, Dave, if you can keep that balanced position there for as long as you possibly can, and don't give yourself a hard time if it does tip. I love that to happen, Roy, but there's no sign of it happening yet. I'll keep my fingers crossed for you, Scott. Cesari's saying we have buy less, but better. That's exactly right. Jimmy Legg is saying, Roy, you are guilty of many things, but we love you for it. I am guilty, and if I can be guilty and still be loved, Jimmy, I'll take it every day of the week. Delicious. Let's get another bottle opened. Do you know what? I've opened two. I'm going to give you an example of exactly what we're talking about. It's a nice segue from what people are talking about right now into this bottle. I'm down at the Campbelltown Malts Festival, feeling really quite good that I haven't really bought much. I think at this time I'd only maybe bought a bottle of the Bottling Hall release. I think that was the only thing I'd bought. But we were in Cadenhead shop, and throughout the week at the Campbelltown Malts Festivals, if you're attending a tasting, you get the ability to buy some of the bottles that are at those tastings. And some of them are exclusive. You had to be at the tasting and things like that. Anyway, I decided that there were lots and lots of things to buy. There was so much to buy that I had to be very careful, and I just kind of stepped off for a bit. But then we're in the Cadenhead shop, and this bottle came out again. Somebody let us try it for the second time, and I thought, oh, it's so good. And I just need to have this. I just need to have this bottle. I actually opened it when we were down there. I opened it straight away, and I shared it with Rolfie and Sevi, and I shared it with a few people as we're walking around. You can see him quite a way through it. But this was shared at the Cadenhead's tasting, and you could buy it at the shop afterwards. It's 56.5%, 20-year-old Bowmore, and I think it was 130 quid. So it was pricey, it was expensive. But when I talk about things for me, this is the type of thing I'm talking about. Now, I don't need this for content. I could contrive content around this. I could talk about how much there's just Beam Suntory stock suddenly everywhere from independent bottlers. And I think it's only going to get better as the independents work out what stock they've got, how it works best from what casks, whether they're going to do small batch, single casks, vattings, blends, whatever they're going to do. We're going to start to see more. We're going to see potentially Glengarries and Auchentoshan's. We're going to see Lafroigs. We're going to see Bowmores. But to see Bowmores after their absence for years and years and years and years coming back again, 7-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old, and even older ones, 20-year-old. Living Souls just brought out a 22-year-old, I think, as well. So I'm going to get this into a glass because official Bowmore is terrible. We've talked about it ad nauseum, as you would say in Latin, right? Until we're sick of talking about it. That The official Bowmore is not representative of what is made at the distillery. It's a crying shame. It's one of our gems. However, I happen to know what's in this bottle would make anyone fall in love with Bowmore. Cheers, everyone. Okay, and the nose immediately, I'm totally distracted by the rosewater Turkish delight type note. So I'm then drawn in a direction of thinking and looking, trying to find the kind of chocolatey element and things like that as well. But I think what we've got here is a much more kind of Bowmore character, where it's quite floral. But immediately, you've got this. We always look for kind of fruit in whiskey. Always one of my first port of calls if I've not got spirit and malt and things like that jumping out, or smoke or whatever, you're immediately drawn to fruit. And if you're looking for fruit, especially a 20-year-old malt, you're going to probably be looking for tropical fruit. And if you're on Bowmore, you're going to be looking for tropical fruit, and it's absolutely here. And it's fresh fruit. It's not confectionery fruit. It's not sweet and sugary. This is fresh, juicy fruit. Lychee. Starburst. No, it's not starburst. Starfruit. Starburst is confectionery. Starfruit. White and yellow tropical fruits. Soft, ripe pears. Peach. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Again, always with this kind of potpourri thing going on in the background. I suggested Turkish delight is kind of similar to that. Very little smoke. Peat blind me would struggle to find smoke in this. Maybe if I was sipping it in contrast with something that was completely not smoky, maybe from an empty glass I would get some smoke. But if there is smoke in this, it's very soft. Cheers. It's got that herbal quality on the palate now, especially on towards the finish. Basil leaves, green, maybe tomato vine, nettle, that type of thing. Ripe, juicy, fresh, elegant, but the best word I could use to describe this is unique. I think there's a good chance you catch me in the right moment, give me enough time, and I think a lot of people that I enjoy whiskey with would be able to spot that this is Bowmore. Parma violets. The little tube of anybody in the UK, the little kind of it's just a lovely, lovely, lovely thing. It's amazing that this is back and it's affordable for us now. Fusty Pudding is saying, I'm fortunate that my local is one of the best whiskey bars in Edinburgh, and I can be very choosy about which bottles I buy. Having the luxury of trying before you buy. You're talking about diggers, of course, there, aren't you, buddy? Yeah, that's amazing, and it is a luxury for you, and it is a very good thing to have. Obviously, we've got decent whiskey bars in Glasgow here as well, but I have to say that you're sipping in one of the best whiskey watering holes that exists. It's good to have you in tonight as well. Steve A is saying, good to have you, Steve. How are you doing? The same can be said about Bowmore. The base 12, 15-year-old, a disgrace compared to, say, SNWS bottlings. It's very interesting to be able to try good quality, clean, pure Bowmore that's not been footered with. But again, it's not a common thing. SMWS is one of the outlets. You're absolutely right, Steve. Lowlander is saying, I wonder if that's the same Bowmore 20-year-old sample that they had on the Cadenheads on the road tasting they had last year. Gorgeous stuff. It is. This is lovely, lovely, lovely. Gordon is saying Suntory's obviously opened the padlocks in the warehouses. Lots of named Lefroy too all of a sudden. It's funny what happens when money's a little bit tight, right? They don't have all the cards anymore. Jesper is saying, my favourite whiskey tasted this year was a Bowmore 21-year-old. I'm on Tiadocast from the warehouse tasting. So good. I didn't get to try that one, Jesper, but it sounds great. Scott is saying, has your tongue turned purple, Aquaviti? Purple Bowmore, right? Purple Glengarry. Cesare is saying, Aquaviti, good Bowmore is hard to find, but better stuff, such Ardbeg or Ardnahoe today. I have to say this, Bowmore, and I think Bowmore is going to be much easier as we're discussing. Bowmore is suddenly going to be made available to us. And things like that, dynamics like that issue that I faced when I was in Campbelltown, that's going to challenge us in the future because we've not been able to access this recently, but it's back. We can access it now, along with its stablemates. Tremendous stuff. All right. Confession time, right? Here's how we're going to do this. I'm first going to share with you my top 5 hoarded bottles, and I'm going to share with you how many bottles I have, how many are open, how many are sealed. Then I'm going to move into talking about what the top 5 is of the community's most hoarded bottles. I think you can probably guess what 2 or 3 of those are, but I was certainly surprised by 1 or 2 entries in the community top 5. And I'll share that as well. And then I'll let you know how many bottles I have in the vPub, how many are open, how many sealed, what my accumulation rate is monthly, how I feel about it, and you can judge me based on that. Okay? So let's go back to February 2025 when I last confessed these numbers. These were my, in 2025, you can go back to that vPub and watch it again, and these are the numbers that I shared on the night. But you can see that number 5 was Clynelish, and I had 8 bottles opened and I had 7 sealed. So I had 15 bottles of Clynelish. And that doesn't necessarily mean official bottlings. That would have been a mix of a couple of official and probably a healthy dose of indies. Kalila, which once upon a time was my number 1 hoarded bottle, but it was down in position 4 last year. I had 14 open and only 2 sealed, numbering 16. Number 3 was one of my favourite distilleries. I'm actually shocked and surprised, honestly speaking, that Kilkerran sitting at number 3 isn't at number 1. But I had 13 open, 10 sealed last year, numbering 23 in total. At number 2, it was Ardnahoe with 22 open and 11 sealed, numbering 33. And number 1, the first position was Loch Lomond, 20 open and 18 sealed. Now, I admitted last year, there's out of this top 5 lineup, there's 2 distilleries that I have released Aquavite bottles from, and that they would have been in this count, but not many of them. Remember, the ones that I'm releasing Aquavite bottles in collaboration with is because I love the spirit rather than the fact that, they're open to doing it. I approach them. Anyway, let me share with you where we are in June of 2026. Coming in at position number 5 this time around is actually Clynelish again. It's stable. The number of bottles have gone up, but I'm happy to report that the sealed bottles have dropped and the bottles that have come in have been opened. And that's because I think I'm a bit less precious. I feel like we can get our hands on Clynelish again, so they're being opened. So I've got 13 bottles of Clynelish, various vintages, various styles, various bottlers, 13 open and 5 sealed. It remains at number 5. Kalila drops out completely though, and we have a new entry. This is crazy to me. When I did the bottle count, I was shocked and then immediately not shocked. Number 4 is Glasgow Distillery. Look, I'm a Glaswegian these days. I love Glasgow. I love living here. I don't want to live anywhere else in the world. I love that there's distilling back in Glasgow. Clydeside, down just outside the city centre, and out west of the city in Hillington, we've got Glasgow Distillery. Now, I admit that the reason that I've got 23 bottles of Glasgow's probably got a lot to do with the fact that they release a lot of bottles of whiskey. And I have to say that although I released a bottle with Glasgow last year, as recently as last year, I've only got 2 or 3 on hand. So there's not many of that 23 bottles that's made up of the Aqua Vitae bottles. It's because of the way Glasgow are going about their business, the variety, the flavour. One of my favourite releases from anywhere over the last few years has been that Isla Cask Glasgow. I loved it. I loved the Manthania. I've loved other releases too. The Aqua Vitae bottle, the bourbon Glasgow is just one of my favourite pours. If I'm in the mood for fruit, I can't reach past it. So it jumps in at number 4. Number 3, we've got Kilkerran, but it's bumped up in numbers from the previous year. Same position, but it's gone up. 13 and 10 has gone to 15 open and 15 sealed. I suspect the reason that the number has jumped is because I'm going down to the festival. That's 3 years in a row I've been down to the Campbelltown Malts Festival. That's going to have an effect. I'm finishing and sharing Kilkerran bottles, but it's still gone up. I've got 30 bottles of Kilkerran. Number 2 is Loch Lomond, so it's slipped a place. Despite the fact that the number of open bottles has jumped up to 25, the sealed bottles has dropped from 18 to 12. And I think that's got more to do with the fact that there's less core range to buy now for Loch Lomond. I've got it all covered. I've got all the 12-year-olds. I've got the 14, that was a wine cask, wasn't it? The 14-year-old. I've got the 18. I've got the core range covered. I think the Loch Lomond for me, I'm now pursuing their distillery exclusives and things like that. But I've got 37 bottles of Loch Lomond. 1 bottle down on last year's 38, which means that at number 1, my most hoarded brand is Ardnahoe. That'll not surprise a lot of people. I had 22 open and 11 sealed last year when we did this. This year, I've got 30 open. And again, that's just probably a lot to do with the amount of variety that distillery's releasing. I think it was Meat was talking about the amount of bottles that distilleries will release, and the completionist in us means that we end up chasing it. But you notice that number, that sealed number, is dropped significantly. I had 11 Ardnahoe sealed. But this year, despite the total number going up quite a bit, this sealed number has actually dropped. I've only got 8 sealed. And I think 4 or 6 of those 8 sealed will be Aqua Vitae bottles. That's where we are. Okay, but you want to know where that compares to the community, okay? So there's my sealed, there's my hoarded list on the left-hand side there. Clynelish, Glasgow, Kilkerran, Loch Lomond, and at number 1, Ardnahoe. So I'm going to share with you what all of you have told me is your most hoarded bottles. This is the community count, and it's a tie at number 5. 12 of you admitted that it's Loch Lomond, and 12 of you admitted that it's Bruichladdich is your most sealed. Now, the number here has nothing to do with bottles opened. That was how I was counting what I had, of course. The number here is the people in the survey, though, 300 and something people. 12 of them have said Loch Lomond is the most I've hoarded, and 12 have said Bruichladdich. So it's a tie for number 5. Then in position 4, Glen Scotia. 13 of you have more Glen Scotias in your collection than anything else. That's a wee bit of a surprise to me. I think it's also a surprise, if I'm honest, to see Loch Lomond in the list as well. But that's 2 Loch Lomond group brands in there that people are taking to, people are loving, and they're picking them up and they're keeping them. Bruichladdich, it's no surprise to me that they're in there. Position 3, Kilkerran. Exact same position as me. Big jump up there in numbers. 22 of you put in Glengyle Distilleries, Kilkerran, as the most hoarded in your collection. And then at number 2, and it's a big jump up again, Ardnahoe. 51 of 300 of you, or over 300 of you, put Ardnahoe as your most hoarded bottle of malt. That was my number one. So what's at number one for the community? I don't think anybody's going to be surprised. Of course it is. The number one hoarded bottle in our community is, of course, Springbank. And the number's massive, as it always is with Springbank. 74 of you are hoarding Springbank more than anything else. There we go. There we go. So there's only one more thing for me to confess or to share with you, and that is the confessions of the vPub collection in 2026. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to celebrate Springbank being the most hoarded bottle in our community. And there's no better way to celebrate it than to open a bottle of Springbank. Now, it's hard to get a hold of Springbank. And you can be reassured that even at a distillery, you know, you can, there's no guarantee you're going to get what you want to get, but you're going to, if you do make the trek, which is also difficult, even if you come to the UK, even if you make it up to Scotland, and even if you make it out to distilleries, the idea that you're going to drive up through over Inverary, down Harbour, over to the west side, down the peninsula, the Kintyre Peninsula, all the way down to Campbelltown. It is a big, big investment. It's a big trip. It's a pilgrimage. But if you do it, if you make that journey, last clean glass, you will have liquid waiting there for you. And even if it's this, the demijohn, the distillery hand fill, the constant live, ever-changing thing, this happens to be at 58%. This is a Springbank demijohn hand fill. And it's always, always terrific liquid. Now, that means I've not even tried this yet. Oh, I've already told you it's great. Are we sure? I have to say it's great now after that build-up, don't I? But we just, I can't remember how much this was. I think it's 65 quid. I think they've now limited this to 2 per person per week. There's quite a lot going on. It's difficult it's a neck pour as well. It's difficult to parse it out. Got a big hit of alcohol there. I didn't give it much time in the glass before I stuck my nose in. But it's super, super, super rich and super Springbank. I think you would put this in front of anybody that's been round whiskey for long enough, that's certainly anybody familiar with Springbank. There's a high chance they could, even on a nose, pick this out. Because it's just got that really kind of dense, mulchy, funky depth. So here's to you discovering Springbank. Here's to you hoarding it. Here's to you ending up in the cul-de-sac that is Janie Mitchell's gem. Cheers. Excellent on it's almost like a whiskey cocktail. Everything's going on. I'm not even going to try, but immediately I'm getting kind of a really lovely, rich, sweet blackcurrant cordial type note mixed with smashed into tobacco and some kind of sweet confectionery. It's dense. It's absolutely dense, and it might just be one of the best value bottles in whiskey that exists. I mean, you could pour this for somebody and tell them that it is genuinely a rare thing, but you could say anything and they would just be, there's so much flavour in the glass. They would just be so taken by it. Lolinda is saying, is that a bottle of Coca-Cola? Look at that colour. It's even very dark in the glass, isn't it? Jimmy Legacy, the colour of that Springbank is completely wrong. I have to say, Jimmy, that I was on the hunt the entire week for ex-bourbon Springbank in the cage. And I held out and I held out and I held out. And the very last day, I was able to walk in and pick up a bourbon cask matured cage bottle of Springbank. And that is my ultimate gem. I've got some cage bottle Springbank from a bourbon cask, I think up here. It's on the go, and once that's done, I'll open the other one. It might end up being a bottle that I get to share. You say wrong, I say right. That's the colour of it. The good thing about Springbank is that we know that they don't add any caramel colourant. So that is saying I've only Springbank 12 cast strength. Well, it's a brilliant one to have, buddy. Kyle is saying that right there, Aquavita is the difference between Springbank and Buffalo Trace. It looks like complete, Jimmy thinks it looks like complete shite. It does not taste like complete shite, buddy. I need to get Jimmy Legg doing some blind taste. And Dave Petey Boy is saying, thank you for a very interesting vPub, Roy. Enjoyed your guest. Great company, saying, but I have a dinner appointment this evening. I'll catch the rest this evening. Dave, thank you very much for hanging out with us. Please enjoy your dinner. It's been a pleasure to have you. Macallan Fine and Rare. Superstar Doc is in the house. One of our elders. Does Springbank include Hazelburn and Longrow? Yes, Doc. I changed it. So if you mentioned Hazelburn or Longrow, these are brands made at Springbank Distillery. So I changed it to Springbank. However, and I can't tell you the numbers exactly, but out of 75 Springbanks, I would suggest that there's about 4 or 5 Hazelburn and about 4 or 5 Longrow in the mix, if that helps. My last cage was a 14-year-old rum matured Kilkerran Aquavita, says Pedro. Did you enjoy it, buddy? Cesare is saying it's stuff for whiskey geek. Absolutely. And Fusipurin saying Calmac, Ardrossen, Brodick, and taken Lagan, Aaron, then Lochranza to Clonic, and on to the wee tune. Avoid the rest and be thankful, which will be most likely closed. You know, it's been about a decade or more since I've been caught out at a closed rest and be thankful. Ian Bruce is saying it would be interesting to see how people's collections have expanded in terms of countries. It's an interesting thing. Wang to Wang, that's some name, I'm not going to write it out, but it's Song, isn't it? And I met you down there. He's saying, did you not get the Kilkerran 7-year-old open day? I did get it, but I've chosen to open this one instead tonight. Frank is saying, just jumped in from the road. I'll catch the replay, but wanted to thank you for the vPub in advance. Thank you, Frank. It's nice to have you here. And there's no such thing as being late. It's always available for everyone in replay. It's wonderful to welcome you in, buddy. Then, with Hazelburn and Longrow, Springbank is now tops on my list. Aquavita. Jimmy Legacy, and I appreciate your ability to appreciate all sorts of whiskey. I will strive to emulate it, but it's very difficult. You don't have to. You just have to do you. I am whiskey promiscuous, and I love it, and I want to hold on to that as long as I can. I do actively strive to kind of keep things changing, but everybody follows their own mood, Jimmy, their own whim. John is saying it just goes to show all roads lead to Springbank. That's right. All roads leads to the vaults, is the saying. And then we know that it's Isla, and then we know that a wee bit further down the peninsula, it's Springbank, right? Greg's Whisky Guide is saying, yes, please, Aquavita, next year include the World Whiskies versus Scotch ones to see how this category evolves. Maybe which countries are standing out. Okay, I might be a bit biased here for France. France are doing great things. There needs to be a wee bit more availability, I think, especially for the older stuff from Armoric and things like that. Dan DVDW is saying what Greg's Whisky Guide said above. So we're getting some agreement there to see what other kind of world whiskies are taking off. Okay, are we ready for some confessions? Why don't you start to predict? Let me take you back to 2025 when I admitted that I had 715 open bottles in the vPub and 200 bottles that were sealed, exactly 200 sealed, 915 bottles, and that was 17 months ago. And you tell me predict how many bottles you think I have today in June of 2026. James Morgan is saying, so thoughts on the finals? Can I hear in England? Sure you can. Sure you can. I think, listen, you've been able to shout England you've not failed to qualify for a tournament, have you? Whereas Scotland haven't been there since 1998. And we also had a huge drought in the Euros as well, up until recent times. It's amazing to be looking forward to just seeing Scotland play at a finals again. I don't care how they get on, I really don't. Good luck to all the home nations. Good luck to all the qualifying nations. Here's to a challenging, I predict, but a wonderful sporting event. Here's to a wonderful World Cup finals. I can't wait. All right, here's the numbers coming in. 1,022. Billy Bennett thinks 805 open and 232 sealed. So he's taking me over 1,000. Fousty Puddin's going for 1,502. 1,200 from Annabelle. 1,500. 1,500 from Gino. 700 open. Wow. Troubleberg 835. Scott 1,300. 1,022 from Andy, as I said. Stuart Dalglish 1,350. Nice to see you, Stuart. Nice to see you, Andy. Nice to see you, Billy. Okay, so the numbers are all coming in pretty high. Let me just rip the plaster off. And I don't know if I'm even going to try to justify it, but this is the truth. It just is what it is. Okay, Confessions of the vPub Collection 2026 in January 2022. So we go way back to when we first started to do this thing and count and share. I had 409 open, had 133 sealed, numbering 542 bottles. In February of 2025, 17 months ago, I shared with you that, as I've just admitted a moment ago, 715 were open, sealed 200, numbering a total of 915 bottles in the vPub collection. So you know that means that a wee bit of calculation can do that. The accumulation rate over that period is 10 bottles per month coming into the collection. Now, it's of course higher than that because there has to be some bottles being emptied and going out. But of course, as you can see by the cadence of the recycled reviews, the more bottles you have open, the harder it is to finish any. It just makes sense. And that's something that's a challenge that I'm facing just now. Regardless, the net accumulation rate was 10 bottles a month from January 2022 to February 2025 over those 3 years. Here we are. This is what you want to hear in June of 2026. Open bottles in the vPub right now. And it's actually just increased by 3 because I've uncorked 3 tonight. So this number's gone up by 3. The sealed bottles have reduced by 3, of course. Open 920. So it's 923 now. 920 open bottles. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're not anxious about the care of those bottles, the whiskey not staying fresh, all of these things. Sure, it's in my mind, but there's nothing I can do about it, and there's nothing I care to do about it. If the whiskey changes, if I lose a couple of bottles, if they go a bit flat or whatever, so be it. There's not much. I'm not going to start making archives. I'm not going to decant any smaller bottles. I'm not going to use gas blankets. I keep them away from sunlight. I store them in a cool place. The heating in this room is never switched on. Everything is stable here, as stable as I can make it. And because I've got so many bottles, the air in the bottle is getting recycled very rarely. So it's not getting continually opened for single 1 and 2 CL pours and getting sealed again. No, it's not a challenge that I've had to face. So how many have I got sealed in 2025? I had 200. Well, today it's actually quite light, 211. And what I take from that is that I've been able to dip into the archive, the things that I was hoarding, and open a lot more, because I expected that number to swell much more than it has, but only 11 bottles over the course of the 17 months. So our total is now 1,131. Still a lot. And that gives me an accumulation rate in the last 17 months of 14 bottles per month. 1,131 bottles. My conclusion, it's fine. It's fine. Do you want me to make excuses? Do you want me to talk about making content? Do you want me to talk about how I need to keep up to date, how I need to keep my finger on the pulse, how it needs to be relevant, how, the coming up with fresh topics every week on the vPub ultimately demands me to purchase bottles. It's incumbent upon me to make sure that the things that I'm talking about is relevant to what you guys are interested in and it matches. Listen, I'm not going to do that anymore. I've already started it. It is what it is. The best word I can use to describe 1,131 bottles being in the vPub is incidental. Yes, as I've shared with you tonight, there are bottles. I am following my whim, my mood, my passion, my desire, the exact same as you guys are. And that's what we've ended up with. I do have to come up with constant topics. And even if it's a topic like tonight that we cover in previous vPubs in years gone past, there's still going to be a reason to open newer, fresh bottles to keep it all up to date. And that's what I'm going to continue striving to do. Sorry, I was distracted there because I've touched the chat and it's gone again. So I need to scroll back up a wee bit. Jeffrey Banger's saying, breaking 1,000, I'll say 1046. What's your highest hopes for Scotland, Jimmy Legg? Highest hopes are there's no bounds, but realistically, I would love to see them somehow for the first time ever get out of the group stages. Zari is saying, I want to go for Campbelltown to see and try Spring for best source. You need to try it. Jerry Miller is saying 114.83, not quite as high as that, buddy. Nice to have you in, Jerry. You have 4 bottles, Jimmy Legg is saying. Cesare saying 1,011, not far away. Ian is saying 890. So lots of guesses coming in. So lots of people putting me in the beyond, that realizing that I've probably breached. There's a very close one from Pedro, 1,123. That might be the closest. That's within 8 bottles, isn't it? Very close, Pedro. Jesper is saying, gutted Denmark couldn't join you via the playoffs, but didn't deserve it. That said, I will wholeheartedly be back in my adopted country, Moan, Scotland. Jesper, it's brilliant to have you here. I was talking to a Danish guy, a friend who lives quite close to me recently as well, and he's quite happy to be supporting Scotland as well. Speaking of recycled reviews, when is the next episode coming? I'm hoping to get one out there in the summertime, buddy. We'll just need to see how it goes. My friend Franz is saying, we're almost spot on the collection size of 2022. I guess we can plan shelving purchases based on your updated numbers. Ginger Genius is saying, I have 22 open bottles, a day in your life, and a new liver. Yeah, I don't feel like I'm consuming. That's part of the problem. It's one of the reasons that recycled reviews can't be happening, right? I'm not consuming any more than I ever have done. I'm just accumulating more. How many roughly went into the infinity cask, though? Well, there's a lot going to need to be carved off. That's an interesting project. The infinity cask is, I'm realizing that there isn't enough liquid in there. But I think the liquid in the infinity cask right now is far too woody. So I'm gonna need to get some more liquid in there. So some of those 1,131 bottles is going to end up in that infinity cask. Jimmy's saying, is that counting Angie's Macallan? Nope. Pedro is saying, guessed at 1,123 Aquaviti, missed by just 8. You did, absolutely. I spotted that. Jeffrey's saying, this is fine. Everything is fine. He's got fire emoji. Everything's fine. It's fine. You told me 6 weeks ago that it's under 1,000, Stefan. I hadn't counted. That was me guessing. But it's nice that you've been watching and listening, buddy. Nice to see you in. Stefan, I had your pirate flag out earlier today. It's over in the corner, buddy. You are like pirates. Scott Thor is saying, have you checked if Scotland play on a Thursday night? I don't think they do play on a Thursday night. But right now, It would be after the vPub. They do play on a Thursday night, don't they? I think they do, the second game. I think the Morocco game is a Thursday. I'm not sure. But it's after the vPub anyway. It's fine. Meet me saying, I'm not staying. It's excessive, but IKEA shares just went up 14%. And Adrian is saying, Roy, you're a whiskey professional. It's your job to be buying and trying new whiskey. I like the way you speak, Adrian. Drew from Arizona, good to see you, Drew. I've gone an infinite cask that's helped me manage my bottle count a bit. And I was wondering if your infinite cask factors your numbers, Roy. Not yet, but they will inevitably affect the open bottle count, because I'm just going to have to. I'm at the point where I don't want to expand the cabinets. I think I'm going to change this cabinet at some point, and that will give me a wee bit more space. But there's no, I'm not. I just need to start managing the. I've got plenty, so I need to start managing it slightly differently. Greg is saying, I could do a non-recycled review with empty high-end or just sentimentality, kept empty bottles, but it might not interest anyone. I just can't store than a few empty bottles. We don't need to be storing empty bottles, right? It's just kind of, that's a real sense of kind of hanging on. And just Terry, 1818, is saying, Aquaviti, do you have something from every Scottish distillery? No. I think I'm at the point now, Terry, where I've had something from every Scottish distillery. There may be, I mean, there's some that's not been released and things like that, but yeah, I think I've definitely had stuff from every Scottish distillery now, but I don't know that I've ever had a point in the collection where I've had something here representative, and it's not something that's a goal right now. Never say never though. You know, it might be a thing in the future, but it's not something that's important now. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I'm going to do what I always do. I'm going to finish on the quiz at the end. I think tonight's quiz at the end is a wee bit easier. Fingers crossed, I'm not sure. I hope it is. I hope that you'll consider staying. We got up to 360 of you participating this evening when we're talking about this topic, and I really appreciate the support. It's lovely to have you here, but the quiz is always a wee bit of fun. Just to finish the vPub. It's always multiple choice. You're only playing against yourself. It's meant to be curious and interesting, and I hope that I've achieved it somewhat tonight, but maybe not. I encourage you all just to hang out for a wee bit longer and play along for a wee bit of a quiz at the end. John Genius is saying, thanks for a great vPub. Same again next week. Thank you, John. It's brilliant to have you here, buddy. And Greg's Whisky is saying, I think I'll guess one of us that could have something from every Scottish distillery. It must be the only Graham Fraser, right? A living encyclopedia. The man is the definition of a whiskey journeyman. Quite incredible. Quite incredible. Okay, everyone. Good luck with the quiz at the end. I've still got a couple of wee sips left and a couple of drams to sip along with you, and it's been fabulous to hang out with you tonight. I think the only one I actually finished quickly tonight was that Ardnahoe, the Fèis release. Anyway, good luck, everyone. 5 out of 5 is a pass. Good luck. Question 1. Which of these brands has released a Palo Cortado sherry release malt whiskey? Which of these brands has released a Palo Cortado version officially? A. Glenmorangie, B. Tomatin, or C. Springbank? Saturday and a Friday for matches in Boston Aquaviti, and a Wednesday in Miami when they play Brazil. Oh, okay. Fantastic, Jimmy. Thanks for clearing that up. It's only the Brazil game that's an issue, but I'll be fine. Sean Causer is saying perhaps Infinity Cast reviews would work. Anything under 1/5 of the bottle in the collection put in the cask. Well, I'm also going to, if I make a good job of the Infinity Cast, Sean, I'm going to hand them out to people when I meet up with them and things, and just kind of make 5cl, 10cl type bottles. ABC, says Greg, and by the way, you can add Waringham Armoric now. I just got me a bottle of it. Palo Cortado Armoric. Superb. I wonder how you pronounce Armoric. Am I pronouncing it properly, Greg? Anyway, you're quite right. Absolutely a freebie for everyone tonight. Glenmorangie, Palo Cortado featured just a few weeks ago on the vPub, the green label bottle, right? Tomatin had their Palo Cortado as part of their sherry releases. I think that was either a year ago or 2 years ago. And Springbank also one of the installments in their sherry wood releases. So they were all relevant. Everyone's got one for one. Question 2, in summertime, which of the following distilleries is it not possible to visit on Sundays? Where can you not go on a Sunday? A, Glencadam in Eastern Highlands, B, Lagavulin on Islay, or C, Springbank in Campbelltown. 2 of those distilleries you can in summertime visit on a Sunday, but one of them is closed on a Sunday. Absolutely loved Kalila Palo Cortado, says Greg, from a Cadenheads a few years ago. I have to say there's been a few bit of chit-chat backwards and forwards. I've always been fascinated by Palo Cortado. I love how different it is. It's difficult to put your finger on at times. What makes it different? Sometimes it can come across quite nutty, hazelnutty even. Sometimes it can come across a wee bit savoury, a wee bit salty. So yeah, I like it, but some people, I suppose it's one of these Marmite things. It's like Brussels sprouts. Some people don't get along with it so well. George O'Brien's in. Good to see you, George. Sam Davison. Good to see you, Sam. Trevor Hedge. The Malt Desk. James Morgan still in. George. Good to see you, James. Scott Thor playing along. Gabriel Welding is in for the quiz at the end. As always, Gabriel, I hope you're keeping well, buddy. Nice to see you in. Bruce Bernard is playing along. Of course you are, Bruce. Good to see you. And Hoyt is playing. Stewie Baby's in. Good to see you, Stewie. How's things in the Northeast? Jeffrey Bangers is in, playing along. Fantastic. So many names popping up. I can tell you, you're absolutely spot on. Glencadam is now extended their visit and opening hours for summertime due to the success. Employed more staff, so they're open 7 days a week. Lagavulin is also open 7 days a week, but Springbank, you'll find, is closed on the weekends. Be very, very careful about visiting Campbelltown. Question 3, Ardnahoe just released its Fèis 2026 bottling. Which of the following facts are true? This should be a freebie for you. I've just opened it tonight. A, 2,026 bottles were released. B, it's bottled at 50% ABV. Or C, it's the oldest official release to date. Ardnahoe's all bourbon matured Fèis release 2026 bottling. Was it either 2026 bottle out turn? Was it 50% ABV? Or was it the oldest official release so far? Lassie Hjort Oatsman is in. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're keeping well. Christy Puddin's playing along. Randy Rice is here. Good to see you, Randy. Paul Gids is in. Daisy's in. Fantastic, Daisy. How are you? Wonderful to have you. Lachlan McKenzie. New Zealand Dave's still in, playing along. Must be approaching the middle of the day in New Zealand now. Good to have you, Dave, still. Gorm J is here. Good to see you, Gorm J. Might be the first time I've welcomed you. No, I don't think it is. I recognise that wee icon. Apologies. Sam Davison thinks it's C, and Jeff Sugarkitty's in, thinking it's C. Good to see you, Jeff. I can tell you that absolutely 7 years age statement on the bottle means that it is, up until at this moment in time, the oldest official release from Ardnahoe. 3 out of 3 is all over the board, I'm sure, so far. Question 4. Which of the following pairs of distilleries features a lost distillery and a new distillery built on the exact same location? I'm going to give you an A, B, and C, 3 pairings of distilleries, a lost distillery and a new distillery. I'm looking for the one that was built on the exact same location as the lost distillery. A, I'm talking about Imperial and Dalmunnock in Speyside. B, I'm talking about Brora and Clynelish in the Northern Highlands. Or C, I'm talking about Ladyburn and Ailsa Bay in the Lowlands. Greg's Whisky is saying exact at 100 meters or less. I would say exact as in close to 0 meters, like the footprint has to be on top of the previous footprint. That's what I'm talking about. The new distillery has to be built on the exact same footprint, the exact same location that the old distillery occupied. George O'Brien is in. Good to see you, George. I hope you're well, my friend. Sam Davison. Still playing along. Sam's going for B on this one. Mike Malais is saying we have no bananas today. There's a banana skin here, Mike. Okay, I thought Wolfburn would be on the list. No. Wolfburn, no. Wolfburn was quite a distance away from the original distillery, not anything close to the exact same location. I can tell you that Brora and Clynelish are both active today, so it can't be that, because they brought Brora back to life, right? It can't be B. Brora is across the road from Clynelish. It's not the exact same location, and we've got two distilleries operating in parallel. So that leaves you a 50-50 between Imperial and Dalmarnock and Speyside, or Ladyburn and Ailsa Bay in the Lowlands. The Girvan complex, the grain complex down in Ayrshire, owned by William Grants, had Ladyburn in operation right up until 1975. And then Ailsa Bay, obviously a much newer thing, 2007, I think, for the foundation of Ailsa Bay. They were built on the same site at Girvan and Ayrshire, but not the same location of the complex. Actually, Dalmarnock is right on the same spot as Imperial Distillery in Speyside, right on the same spot. Interestingly, one of the reasons that they couldn't call it Imperial is because of a lack of appetite. I mean, it's Imperial's. There's such a loaded word when you talk about, the whole kind of colonialism and things like that. Imperial was it wasn't a good idea to use that in a modern context, but also, not least because the SWA would have something to say about the fact that Imperial is already out there as a brand, as a blend these days. So the new distillery was named Dalmarnock, but it was built on the exact same site. Question 5 is a picture question, and we're going to see a man hand-rousing a mash tun. Where was this picture taken? Small ass hat for the picture here. So you have to know where this is, and you have to know where it's located. Is it A, in the Lowlands? Is it B, in the Southern Highlands? Or is it C, in the Western Highlands? Where is this picture taken? That is a lot of porridge, says Mike. It is. And yet, in a whiskey making context, it's actually not very much at all. Fraser is spot on. Fraser Ewing has nailed it. He is saying Scotland. Jens Roger Christofferson is here. Jens, how are you? It's so nice to see you in. Eric Waite is in playing along. Fantastic. And being the whiskey student that he is, he's not far off. He's not far off at all. Graham Fraser is here. Fantastic. Graham Fraser saying, I've posted that pic before. Oh, have you now? Have you? Aye. Andrew Dorr is in, just jumped on. Wanted to say hi to you in the Barflies. We'll catch you on the replay. Andrew, fantastic. And Andrew, now that you're back playing on the replay, it's nice to have you here. I hope you're sitting comfortably and enjoying your weekend, fella. Thanks for coming in and saying hello while we were live. B, following the crowd, saying Southern Highlands. Absolutely, I can't hide it from anyone here that we're obviously looking at a picture of the old previous mash tun, the smallest mash tun in Scotland, I think it was at this time. And you can see the work that goes in with a big, huge, long pole there, and it's been hand-roused. This is a hand-roused mash tun at Glenturret Distillery in the Southern Highlands. And as has already been pointed out by Eric, no doubt Graham Fraser and people like that will back up as well, it's now been replaced by a much more modern version of the mash tun. Question 6. Which whiskey resurfaced just this week? Which whiskey resurfaced just this week? A 14-year-old from Arran. B, a 14-year-old from Bruichladdich, or C, a 14-year-old from Lagavulin? Tasted Glenturret recently for the first time and it was lovely, says Scott Thor. The malt desk is suggesting there is more than one option here. Please, the malt desk, I implore you, read the question. Which whiskey resurfaced just this week? Those damn bananas, says Mike. B for sure, but I've seen a pic of A. Don't know if it's true though. Well, today's Dramface review was A, and last week on the vPub was also A. So it can't be a 14-year-old from Arran to surface just this week, because we already had it in the vPub last week. 14-year-old from Arran is already old news. It's 2 weeks old now. 14-year-old from Lagavulin, well, the Fèis release was brought out this year, but it's not a resurfacing, it's a first release, and it was brought out on the 23rd of May. So it's already 2 weeks old as well. I'm, of course, talking about the resurfacing of the Yellow Submarine 14-year-old from Bruichladdich. I think it's wildly sold out now. I got to taste it. I had a generous sample from pre-release, and I thought it was absolutely delicious. £100, probably a 10 or 20 quid more expensive than what I hoped it could be, but you know, it's beautiful whiskey, objectively very, very good whiskey. Anybody that picks up a bottle of the Yellow Submarine will not be unhappy. But yes, resurfacing. I think this is probably the 4th release of the Yellow Submarine over the years. Aye, B, got you a point. Question 7. In terms of founding year, which of these Southern Islay distilleries is the oldest? A, Ardbeg, B, Bowmore, C, Port Ellen. It's all about the founding year. Lots of 6 out of 6 doing very, very well. The majority of you are doing, there's going to be some high scores tonight. Lots of you already celebrating your pass mark. I'm not seeing anyone that hasn't hit the 5 out of 10 pass mark already. So we've got a comfortable quiz under our belts tonight. But what I'm looking for here in terms of founding year, which of these Southern Island distilleries is the oldest? A, Ardbeg, B, Bowmore, or C, Port Ellen? Oh my goodness. Trevor Hedge. Do we need a map of Islay to help everyone here? The banana skin is there to help you reread the question again. In terms of founding year, which of these Southern Islay distilleries is the oldest? Well, of course, the oldest distillery on Islay, and one of our oldest distilleries in the country, is 1779 Bowmore. But Bowmore is way up in the middle of Islay. It's on the coast of Loch and Dal, opposite the loch from Bruichladdich. So it's not Bowmore. That leaves you with a 50-50 between Ardbeg and Port Ellen. Port Ellen was founded in 1825, and Ardbeg was 1815. So the answer is A for Ardbeg. If you answered Ardbeg, you're right, and you dodged the banana skin. Question 8. Who wrote the widely celebrated book Whisky, simply called Whisky? Whisky in 1930. Who wrote Whisky in 1930? Was it A, Alfred Bernard, B, Aeneas MacDonald, or C, Michael Jackson? It's quite an easy one, I think, for question 8. Meet Me is saying, boo, the question says they're all southern. Nope. Which of these southern distilleries? It's the Banana Skin Meet Me. I'm sorry, my friend. It makes it easier because it brings it down to a 50-50. As soon as you know that Bowmore is not a Southern Island distillery. 4 1/3 from 7, Stuart Dalgleish. Stuart, we need to work with you. You only need 2/3 of a point to get over and get a pass mark and celebrate tonight. Who wrote Whisky back in 1930? It's been reprinted a few times since. The copy I've got is got a forward by Ian Buxton. But who wrote Whisky in 1930? Was it Alfred Bernard, Anais MacDonald, or Michael Jackson? Question 7 states it wrong, and Bowmore is on the southern half of the island. Do you know what, Kyle? You know the rules of the vPub quiz at the end. If you want to take it, you can take it. If you think Bowmore is a Southern Island distillery, you can take it. Protest, he's saying. Brilliant. I can tell you that it was a pseudonym. It is an alias that you wrote under. I'm talking about Anais MacDonald, the distilleries of the United Kingdom and Ireland, I think it was called, was Alfred Bernard's 19th century tome. Michael Jackson is much more modern. B is the answer, Anais MacDonald. Question 9. Who is credited with pioneering the art of blending at birth? It's a tricky question. I've thrown this in here to destroy so many 8 out of 8s, haven't I? Who's credited with pioneering the art of blending at birth? That is mixing grain and malt as new make and maturing them in cask together. Who is credited with that? A. Joe Hobbs, a bootlegger from Ben Nevis. B. David Stewart, a blender from Balvenie. Or C. Peter Mackey, an entrepreneur from White Horse Distillers. Joe Hobbs, a bootlegger from Ben Nevis, David Stewart, a blender from Balvenie, or Peter Mackey, an entrepreneur from White Horse Distillers. One of them is credited for pioneering the art of blending at birth. This is tricky stuff, right? And we've still got the ass hat to get over as well. Scott Thor is saying A because it sounds more romantic. The malt desk is going with A as well. Very few others are, but New Zealand Dave feels confident that it's also A. Bruce Bernard is going for A. Okay. I can tell you that Peter Mackey, entrepreneur for White Horse Distillers, was responsible for lots and lots of crazy things, but blending at birth was not one of them. David Stewart was very much involved in double wood maturation, finishing, and things like that. He wasn't ever the first, but he was one of the pioneers and the main drivers behind it. But it was actually Ben Nevis's Joe Hobbs, originally a bootlegger that made his name and made his fortune supplying the States, the States with usually teachers' whiskey during Prohibition. But after the war, he became involved in Ben Nevis, and one of the things that he pioneered and developed was blending at birth, malt and grain to go into the cask. So there you go. If you answered A, you dodged the banana skin. Is there anyone with a 9 out of 9? Is there anyone drifting into the ass hat at the end with a chance? There got to be. Oh my goodness, lots of 8 out of 9 now. 9 out of 9, New Zealand Devo. Here we go. We've got at least one. I thought I saw somebody else there as well. God, I saw another 9 out of 9, didn't I? At least another one. Daisy's on a 9 out of 9. I thought I saw another one. Gorm J is on a 9 out of 9. Fantastic. Molasses Mike, 9 out of 9. So we've got at least 4. Okay, so let's see how the attrition goes into the ass hat at the end, which is always going to be the worst question of the night. It always needs a wee bit of luck, a wee bit of second guessing and understanding. Okay, bring it, Aquavite. 9 out of 9 says Mike Molasses. Here's your ass hat for this Thursday evening. How many malt distilleries are operational in Scotland today? For those of you listening, as in AUCH, or OCH. How many malt distilleries are operational in Scotland today? Around the same as the number of distilleries owned by Isle of Arran. Or is it around the same as B, the number of operational Craig distilleries? That's distilleries with Craig in the name. Or is it around the same as the number of C, operational island distilleries beginning with a T? How many malt distilleries are operational in Scotland today? Is it just the same as the number of distilleries owned by Isle of Arran? Is it the same as the operational Craig distilleries today? Or is it the same as operational island distilleries beginning with the letter T? Come on, kids. Come on. We always start off very, very well. But recently we've been good at getting a few over the line at the end. Coin spinning, Stuart Dalglish is saying absolutely spot on. There is a bit of that. Definitely Stuart with the ass hat at the end, always. If it lands on its edge, it's B. If it stays standing up, it's B. Too tired to think now, sorry. Random A answer. Saying Greg's Whiskey Guide. You're an hour ahead of us, buddy. You deserve to be able to just slink off to your bed. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, Greg. Okay, will I put you all out your misery? No, I'll help you a little bit first. I'll tell you that the distilleries owned by Isle of Arran numbers 2. Operational Craig distilleries. There's only 1. Craigellachie, that's the only one. Operational island distilleries beginning with T is 3. Talisker, Tobermory, and Torrevik. So which is it? 1 distillery, 2 distilleries, or 3 distilleries? Giving you a wee chance there. I can tell you that we have Auchentoshan, Athrusk, and Glentochers. It's 3. So the answer was C. Anybody that answered C wins the ass hat tonight. Did any of our 9 out of 9s manage to navigate that and answer C at the end? Did anybody manage a 10 out of 10 tonight? Did anybody? Cesari's on a 9. Lowlander is on an 8. Kyle Taylor on an 8. Fantastic scores. Lassie on a 7. Gav's Drams on a 7. Still brilliant scoring. A tough quiz tonight. Lachlan on a 7. 8-7 for Paul. Big Jimmy Jazz Lachlan. Andrew Pearce on a 7. Ian Bruce 8. Nicholas on a 6. Still a pass mark, Nicholas. Jerry Miller on a 9. Randy Rice 7 out of 10. Daisy Vleeland, you dancer. Daisy in the Netherlands nails a 10 out of 10. Is she the only one this evening? Jesper is celebrating a 9 out of 10. Trippleberg an 8 out of 10. 9 out of 10 for New Zealand Dave. He's slipped up on the ass hat. Nightmare. A nightmare, buddy. A nightmare. Jimmy Legg is saying, he's talking to Whiskey with Molly. Daisy, Jeffrey Bangers is celebrating with Daisy. Jerry Miller is celebrating with Daisy as well. I think we have the only one. Daisy Fleeland is Fleiland. She's always trying to get us to pronounce her name a bit better, but we struggle with it. I struggle with it. It's just me, Daisy, isn't it? Anyway, fantastic. Let's raise a wee glass to our friend in the Netherlands. She's nailed a 10 out of 10 on a very, very tricky wee quiz at the end. Well done to you. Cheers. I think you might be the only one. So there we have it. Quiz is done. The confessions are done. We've taken another sample of what we're doing, what we've done, what we're feeling, what we intend to do going forward. And it is changing. It's changing year by year as whiskey is changing with us. And it will change in the future. And we will adapt and respond to what the industry brings us. There's no doubt about that. But we're always becoming a little bit more informed, a little bit more canny. The industry is going to need to work to bring us things to get us excited, to bring it earnestly, fairly, honestly, transparently, to bring us value, to not gouge, to not overcharge, and to not be cynical with the presentation. We have the choice today, like we've never had before. We talk about it all the time. And the product of that choice is an overaccumulation that honestly, sometimes we just need to kick back and say, you know, this is fun. I'm not in this thing. I'm not into whiskey for it to bring me anxiety. I'm not into whiskey for me to have to add admin layers to things. I want to just enjoy this thing. Do it responsibly, within your means, with balance. Follow your mood. Keep it fun. And all the rest of what we've studied tonight is just incidental. Jimmy Legg is saying, it is fun. I've got a wee sip of this left, this Bowmore. No, I think that's the Springbank, actually. So I'm going to raise this wee sip that I have left to thank everyone for joining me for another wee vPub tonight. It's been great fun. Very glad to hang out with you. Of course, I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week. But until then, I'll raise this glass and say congratulations to Daisy in the Netherlands for being, I think, the only one that nailed a 10 out of 10 tonight. And I'll remind you all that you're very dearly loved. Until next week, thank you and Slancheva. Cheers.